Wigxanthium mumble rap is the next song, y'all. And all I'm gonna do is pick a corporate product. What's the worst corporate brand that you could think of? And I'm just gonna repeat the brand names, right? Long John Silver got that Long John Silver, got that Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, JC Penney corn chips, JC Penney corn chips, Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, Long John Silver got that Long John Silver, got that Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, JC Penney corn chips, JC Penney corn chips, Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, Long John Silver got that Long John Silver, got that Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, JC Penney corn chips, JC Penney corn chips, Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, Long John Silver got that Long John Silver, got that Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway, JC Penney corn chips, JC Penney corn chips, Long John Quiznos, Pringles, Subway. All you do is you repeat stupid corporate. Here we go. Carbo-Crew, 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 Planet Fitness, Planet Fitness, McDonald's, 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 McDonald's. Cringe core, mumble rap.
Cringe core, cringe core, cringe core, cringe core,
I got that blockbuster. I got that blockbuster. I got that Palantir. I got that Palantir. I got that Wells Fargo. I got that Wells Fargo. Tylenol. Tylenol. I got no Bisco. I got no Bisco. I got that TJ Maxx. I got that TJ Maxx. I got Balenciaga. I got Balenciaga. I got Balenciaga. I got Balenciaga. This is fun. I'm like a rapper now. I'm a rapper now. Dang, I just realized it. You bet it's cringe. It's called cringe core, dummy. Dude thinks he's on the cutting edge, the cusp of cutting edge, calling me cringe.
Cringe core, cringe core, cringe core, cringe core, cringe core,
Got the CA, got the TJ Maxx, got that Zap, got that DAP, got that Gap, got that Craft, got that Long John Silver.
I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty. I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty. I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty.
But I mean, like, what does it take for y'all to see through these people? I don't even understand it. Like, what's the point of even talking about it? I could have told you that there was a goober tard, a goblin, a demon, and a goober tard.
The Council of Ephesus did not say that you cannot text a girl with a very plump booty. I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty. I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty.
I don't even want to spend any time in the loser sphere.
I was texting the plump booties. Could I send you some more texts?
I already told you it was a goober tard.
I can't believe that the losers were acting like the losers that they are. What? Losers were acting like losers?
I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty. I will grease you up. Very good. You have a very plump booty.
Well, Voice of Reason's got a point.
You have a very plump booty. The Council of Ephesus made an error when it said that you can't talk about plump booties. I would like a plump booty on my face. This is Voice of Reason.
I'm in love with the heart try to stop it. Throw your little hissy fit, 'cause I'm in love with the ooh. I'm on our fears, feeling all of your fears. Crying little man tears, crying 'cause I'm ooh. Crying 'cause I'm a little bitch, a bitch with a sassy face. Sassy little backpack full of limbo spread, full of little limbo spread. Put on a little bit of lemon spread on limbo spread. Itty bitty you, feeling all our fears, feeling all your fears. Willow versus evil witch, nasty little son of a bitch. Willow versus evil witch, sassy little bitch, sassy little backpack, sassy little Frodo. Back in the light you would, pack it where you know I should. Pack a little limbo spread, limbo spread. Pack a little limbo spread. Goes good with my style. Love with the hobby. Don't you try to stop it. Throw a little hissy fit, 'cause I'm in ooh, love with a hobby. Ooh, I'm in love with a hobby. Don't you try to stop it. Throw your little hissy fit, 'cause I'm in love with a ooh. Ooh, I'm on our fears,
Feeling all your fears.
feeling all of your fears. Crying little man tears, crying 'cause I'm ooh, crying 'cause I'm a little bitch, a bitch with a sassy face. Sassy little backpack full of limbo spread, full of limbo spread. Put on a little bit of lemon spread, lemon spread on lemon spread. Itty bitty ooh, feeling all our fears, feeling all your fears. Ooh.
Everybody knows that's fire. What's up, y'all? Welcome. We've had no internet, so I'm glad to have the internet back so that I can talk to all of you internet people. Shout out to everybody who's a chat nerd in the chat. A little bit more music to get us riled up and ready to go. We're going to be talking about Civil War, the failure of libertarianism. We're going to be talking about a little bit of smack talking I did. We're going to talk about the history of revolutions. We're going to talk about color revolutions. We're going to talk about the patterns, where we are in the stages of Jacobin Bolshevik color revolutions, why they're doing this, what's going on, why is it Minnesota? Well, we know. We have all the answers. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
But the Dark Ages was a time when black people ruled Europe. So when you go into the real history, you'll see King James was...
That's King James right there. That's James LeBron. That's King LeBron right there.
black. He was not a white guy. You'll see his whole lineage of kings.
Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion, black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion, black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion, black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion,
who was a homosexual himself, who was in love with his sister Lucretia, who they made the image of Lucretia to be Mary. And that became the Renaissance era.
Lucretia.
So hold on, you telling me Lucretia? That's a black name right there. How you gonna say that the people that was framing the black people were also black? That don't make no sense. Lucretia's a black as hell name. Lucretia. The church even allowed it, you know what I'm saying? The church allowed for straight pimping. But that have been suppressed. Listen to my brother. In the 1500s, it was legal to be a pimp. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. All right, let's get into it. Now, a lot of crazy stuff happening in the last couple days. In the midst of the polar vortex. In the midst of, I'm all snowed up. Nothing else to do but talk to y'all. But I didn't have no internet juice, so I couldn't talk to y'all. The juice was empty in the internet machine. So what could I do? Just sit there and think about how much I wanted to talk to y'all. So I'm kind of on low-key sexting with y'all right now, just a little bit. I miss y'all so much. And I'm putting little plump booties in the chat. Oh, wait. I was mixing myself up with somebody else. I ain't sexting with y'all. Jamie's standing in the other room. You just got entrapped. Haha. Got you. What's that guy's name that entraps all the dorks? The NBC entrapment man. What's his name? What's that guy's name that entrapped all the sleazy, dorky, nerdy dudes? Jamie? NBC's entrapment. Whatever that show was. What's his name, y'all? The one they had got a Voice of Reason. Just kidding. What's the name of that show? I can't think of it. Chris Hansen, right? AKA the guy that sang in Bop. Bop, dip, ba, do, wop. Gonna get a predator. Bop, dip, da, do. Predators, yeah. Bop, Chris Hansen, right? That's Hansen. It's the same Hansen. Is that different Hansen? Is that Bop? Bop, BDF, Bop. to catch a bopper. Yeah, y'all just got all busted because I'm a married man and y'all got entrapped into S.E. Exton with me. Ooh, caught you. Busted on the down low. Just kidding. Anyways, we got a lot going on. Crazy stuff happening. Where to begin? Okay, let's look at my notes. What's on the notes first? The Podesta plan. It seems like this is, to some degree, what is in effect. And of course, Lord Voldemort has been talking about this pretty consistently for many years, all the way back to 2020 when we had the election integrity, transition integrity project. Okay, so let's take a look at this first. What is the transition integrity project? Always with these gay, innocuous sounding names, right? But this is part of the NGO steering committee foundation adjacent superstructure, shall we say. And I'm going to remind you that this is not new. The way that this kind of stuff happens, this is old. This is old technology. But people, in terms of the masses, have still not figured out who's really running things in the sense of how it's actually run. Okay. So the government people are not the people that actually call the shots. They have a limited degree of lawmaking, legislative powers, etc. But above them are myriads and armies of think tanks, foundations, NGOs, etc., nonprofits, and they have a tremendous amount of power and influence. and they are really steering things. Now, let's take a look at what this one was, because you might have thought, well, this is not a big deal. Well, this was in 2020 when they were worried that there might not be the Democrat victory. They put together this Project Democracy project called Transition Integrity Project. And this was spearheaded by a bunch of high-profile Democrats, University of California, Berkeley, the Berggruen Institute, never even heard of that. That's who this Rosa Brooks woman is. Other members included Michael Steele of the RNC. So it's not all just Democrats. Podesta. This is why sometimes Lord Voldemort calls it the Podesta Plan. Neocons like William Crystal. Neocons like Max Boot, David Frum, Council on Foreign Relations individuals. Trey Grayson, who was Rand Paul's opponent back in 2011 or so, 2012. Other governors. And again, key character here is Podesta and other rhinos. It was launched as a project out of concern that Trump will steal, manipulate, ignore, undermine, and disrupt the 2020 election. But it set the stage for the plan of what the left in the U.S. would do in the case of future election situations. So when we had 2024, this plan didn't go away. Of course, they claimed everything that you could think of, right? Trump is illegitimate. Not my president. He's not my president. Trump ain't my president, right? And so they basically talked about all of these techniques and tricks that they do. Said that this was going to be done by the opposition. And so in 2020, they conducted tons of wargaming exercises. Scenarios in case of a national emergency because of the fascism of Trump. Game one was called Ambiguous. This investigated a scenario in which the outcome of the election remained unclear throughout the night and whether or not they would concede. Game two, a clear Biden win. Biden wins everything. Transition to the Biden White House. Make sure that there's a clear transition. Game three, if Trump wins, the scenario refuses to concede. Biden would not concede. They would separate the state electors to have a separate electoral college, etc. And of course, all of these were not a huge deal in the sense of how it actually went down. But what happened was in the aftermath, they talked about other operations that they would do, which would include saving America in the case of national crises. In the response, Pelosi said that we would need impeachment immediately and that Donald Trump should be taken out because of insurrection in the J6 events, right? We had, for example, Newsom recently was on, I think it was the late night comedy nonsense gibberish show where he said that there would be secession. So this is the origins of where we started getting the talks from the Democrats about legal secession, breaking apart America, et cetera. It would have to happen because of Trump's dictatorial takeover. Now, we've also had several movies, as we talked about, and did a podcast decoding them, that a lot of times you can, not always, but a lot of times you can decode from the propaganda where they want to take things in terms of civil war, breaking apart the country, dividing it up, etc. And we had this massive British establishment film that, of course, Alec Garland does quite a few of these esoteric sort of, you could say, Luciferian Gnostic films. You can think of things like Ex Machina. You can think of things like Annihilation with Natalie Portman, which was fully a Luciferian film. And the idea in this movie was that Trump would be this self-proclaimed dictator. We would have to have a BIPOC revolution to take over the new Federated States of America or whatever. And you have basically Nick Offerman playing a Trump, and he gets taken out in the film by the BIPOC slave queens who save America from the racism. Now, what's interesting is that the saving of America in all these narratives has nothing to do with the borders. In fact, the borders are now supposed to be fully, totally open. And that fully, totally open border has to be protected for human rights, right? Against the fascism of the Gestapo tactics of ICE and Trump. That's where we are now. This is the exact same playbook that they ran back when there was the Summer of Love. Remember this? With the Soros-funded riots in Ferguson. I remember all that very vividly. Remember, you had BLM, you had towns burning, and it was mostly peaceful, right? So remember, the left can engage in full-on, straight-up terror, absolute terrorism, and it's all validated and justified because of the psyche and the psychosis of the leftist mindset. Remember, they're justified in anything that they do because they're on the good team. They're the good guys fighting the evil guys. That means that you can engage in ends justify the means, and also because, of course, there are no objective morals, so you can just basically do whatever. But you're doing good because you are against the fascists. And then what we find out is that all of this stuff really is organized at a very high level. Now, what's amazing is that this should not be a surprise to anybody who has some sense of the history of color revolutions, which we've talked about for about 10 years now. We interviewed F. William Engdahl, who wrote probably the most famous book on that 10, 15 years ago, Full Spectrum Dominance, as well as other texts. So we're going to talk about the summary of that book here in just a second. But remember, this is not anything new in the sense of American inquiries into leftist activities. We had the Reese Committee report many decades ago, back in the 1950s, investigating into why are we getting all of this leftist indoctrination and activism all throughout the schools, throughout universities. Where is this coming from? And the Reese Committee discovered, well, it is coming from the tax-free, tax-exempt foundations, NGOs, think tanks, and foundations. Now, did anything ever change? No, nothing changed, right? This was headed up by Norman Dodd, who I believe died under suspicious circumstances. Nothing ever changed, but at least we got a window into what was happening. The Dodd report just found that because of its provocative nature, the committee was attacked. The Dodd report to the Reese Committee on Foundations talked about the definition of the word subversive, that the Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Endowment, using Columbia, Harvard, University of Chicago, University of California, etc., pushing oligarchical collectivism. Interesting. The report noted that internationalism was the focus of these foundations and institutes, and the main message was moral relativism. Now, we are 75 years later, into 75 plus years of indoctrination into moral relativism. And what do we get? You got it. Full on insanity and riots and people losing their minds, people going insane. Now, you heard me mention a second ago, this ends justify the means. That is the moral relativism of the left. Leftism is based on people power, power to the people, right? I heard throughout tons of clips the last few days, power to the people, just random thugs and criminals repeating phrases like power to the people which nobody even knows what that means. Basically just means I can engage in criminal activities by saying power to the people because I'm justified because I'm fighting fascism. And that results in absolute chaos and mobs that can be steered and used for destructive purposes. And that's what the think tanks and the foundations and the community organizers and the college professors do, is organize and steer the mobs. And we saw back in the Arab Spring, in those revolutions, that was the beginning of the pioneering of Twitter and other social media operations rolling out to steer and control and fund and market revolutions, right? So we get that beginning in terms of being rolled out in the modern period through Twitter, not so much Twitter now, but in this case, more recently, in the past couple of days, it turns out it was Signal. So they were using the Signal app instead to organize and figure out how to target ICE and to steer all the protests and the mobs, etc. And we come to find out that allegedly, no shocker here, high-level Democrat politicians, governors, officials, etc., are involved in the Signal app targeting. Now, what does this mean? First thing I want to say is, if you've watched this channel, you know that there's no surprise that in any of that, because the left is not dumb. This is the big flaw in the Con Inc. fake conservative lie that they spout, that all of the left is just a giant blob of idiots. And they're so unorganized and they're so stupid and they can't get anything done. Really? They can't do anything? Really? How come the country keeps going leftist for so many decades? How come the country keeps going into insanity, doing the very things that all of these leftists want, if the leftists are so stupid and unorganized and can't accomplish anything? Because it seems like they're getting everything they want. So maybe the Con Inc. frauds that you all listen to and follow devoutly to your destruction, maybe they're lying to you, or they're just dumb. Maybe they're naive and they don't understand how the world really works. Do you think Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh or any of those goobertards, do you think they've read anything out of my book selection? Anything? We have thousands of books at this house. Do you think they've read anything, any selections? I'm willing to bet maybe Matt Walsh has read one or two. Do you think they've read anything on geopolitics? Absolutely not. I can guarantee you none of them have cracked a single book on geopolitics. Maybe Communist Manifesto or something like that. Maybe that would count. No. So, well, if that's the case, then can y'all hear me? I was making sure my microphone's working. Then why is it that people are so obsessed and attuned to these idiots? This is what's mystifying me. I have to believe that everyone is just being more and more dumbed down, and so they don't have any discernment, and they can't recognize who's telling the truth or where to go. There's so many voices and face lords out here yapping every day that there's just a glut of information. They don't have any way to sort of sift the good from the bad, the true from the false, the credible from the non-credible. So there's a lot of factors involved in this, but also I think we have to understand the importance of controlled opposition. And you don't have to be some cognitively aware, self-aware, cunning, evil genius to be controlled opposition. You can be just a dum-dum who's put in a position, who's used. So I think with a lot of the Con Inc. people who are the real problem in the country, that's the real, because they're the fake opposition that's like a lightning rod that takes all the time, the energy and focus of the right to basically neutralize them and make them completely ineffectual, to get nothing ever accomplished. Why? Because they never look behind the curtain. They never look to those behind the curtain. It's always focused on Biden and the Dems and how dumb the left is. Again, if the left is so incompetent and stupid, why do leftist goals every decade continue to be successfully achieved? If the left is so dumb, why does the right always lose for the last 7,500 years? Maybe there's a army of leftist dummies that are the face of leftism, and behind that is very wealthy, cunning, intelligent oligarchs, foreign influence, etc. So in other words, behind the army of the dumb leftists is think tanks, foundations, NGOs, etc. And you can include things like the CIA and all that in that as well. That's another apparatus and they're all kind of interlinked, right? So for example, Davos is adjacent to and closely connected to both the CIA, the Trilateral Commission, the CFR, and Bilderberg. Hence, many members of and steering heads of Davos have also been members and steering heads of Bilderberg. For example, Klaus Schwab. So they're not a bunch of different things competing. They work together in interlocking, interlinking partnerships through these steering committees. This model is called the Round Table model, the Royal Society Round Table model. That's not a competing theory or approach to this than Zionism or anything else like that, because that's a big part of that. They work hand in glove. They work together. Now, there might be times when certain people disagree. Perhaps a Soros doesn't like a Bibi Netanyahu, but in the long run, it really doesn't matter that much because ultimately the goal is the same. The goal is total technocratic control, a global Fabian socialist technocratic order that Lord Rothschild, Cecil Rhodes, Lord Curtis, John Ruskin, and others outlined over 100 plus years ago. And then they had their propagandists like H.G. Wells, Bertrand Russell, Moses Husk, and countless others push and sell this idea. Okay. That's the big key thing to understand. And I don't know, I just cannot understand why this is so hard for people to grasp. Even when people learn this, they immediately get sucked back into party politics and stupid shit. Now, I'm not saying you can't follow party politics or whatever, but it's like we always have to have this same discussion over and over and over. And history just keeps repeating because people cannot figure out that there's a layer and a level above the politicians. Why is this so hard for people to understand? Every day I'm mystified. I cannot understand why we can't get people to understand that if we're ever going to see anything change, we need to look back to what the Reese Committee was looking into. Because they figured it out right here. Wait a minute. This is why America's going to crap. They figured that out in the 50s, but nothing was ever done, wasn't ever changed. I'm not wrong about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is dead. So this is how stupid these people are. Yeah, good luck with your boomer coins. No, actually, I just bought more Bitcoin, so you can get lost. These people are so stupid. I mean, once again, I think what happens, Bitcoin is a great example there of what's happening here. People get caught up in the immediacy of what's happening at this moment and they forget the big picture. Remember, the news was designed to never give you the context or the big picture. You're always caught in the daily feed, the news of today, right? So then you forget about the big picture. Likewise, people that say, oh, gold just went up. So, I mean, if you've listened to what we talked about for the last 8 years, we're not playing Bitcoin as some immediate short-term trade. I'm not a trader. I'm not a day trader. If you want to do that, that's your business. I don't care. You go do what you want with your money. That's not what I do, and that's not what I promote. So people with a short time horizon, a inability to think long term, get caught up just like news junkies and news tards in the 24-hour cycle, the 24-hour slop cycle. Exactly. And so they don't know how to plan for where will things be in 10 years. Again, if you don't think Bitcoin is worth it, then explain to me and prove to me how gold is superior. I don't mean that you think it's superior. I mean, go watch the talk that we did on Saifedean Amos' book, Bitcoin Standard, and listen to the critiques that he gave of gold and silver. And what's interesting is that there was a silver glut, like 100 plus years ago. So we had a similar thing going on with silver, and the silver market tanked. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't have any predictions. I'm not really into silver. I quit doing gold and silver like 10 years ago. I sold all of my gold, which was not a whole lot. It was like $12,000 worth of gold in like 2018. And I went and bought, I think, 1 or 2 Bitcoin. Forget how much it was. But I dumped all of the gold and got Bitcoin back in 2018. And that was the wisest decision I ever made, at least looking back in regard to money. I also remember one time I had in 2019 a little chunk of Tesla stock. I don't know, maybe $10,000 of Tesla. I dumped all that too and bought Bitcoin. So, I mean, every time I've divested and put something else into Bitcoin, it's been in the long term blessed. So that's my position. And no, I'm not changing my position. I don't care about short term gains of this coin or Bitcoin. I mean, of gold or whatever. I'm not a boomer, dude. I don't care about that. Yeah, 5 years did fly by. I mean, 5 years is going to fly by again. Again, you guys are so silly, man. Please stop with the low quality Bitcoin bullshit in the chat, because even if there's an EMP, it doesn't destroy Bitcoin. You guys are so stupid, man. Please, I don't have any tolerance for that. And again, have fun staying poor. Good job. Yep, HFSP. Goodbye. Get out of here. By the way, if you want a bunch of gold, guess what? If you buy Bitcoin and stack Bitcoin for the next 10 years, in 10 years, you can buy all the gold you want. How about that? Jort coin. We got people talking about money worship talk. No, covering finances is not money worship. And you can get lost too. I got no tolerance for retards, no tolerance for people with no practical life skills who want to come in here and bitch about if we talk about money. Do you understand that if you go talk to any bishops or if you talk to monasteries, do you know what they're concerned with? Money. Anyway, it never fails that once the word Bitcoin comes up, the armies of idiots flow into the chat. They don't know anything about it. They just repeat the FUD of 10 years ago. And that drives me insane, dude. You're going to be wishing that you had bought Bitcoin in 5 years when it was at a discount at 89, or did it go to 90 today? Somewhere around there. Anyway, the more bullshit you put about Bitcoin in the chat, the less I'm going to listen to you, and you're probably just going to get booted. So you might as well just not even talk. Bitcoin going to zero. All right, goodbye. You're out of here. See, it helps me filter. You know what? Keep talking shit about it, because it helps me filter out low IQ people from my chat who I don't even want here anyway. Now, now we got to have piety signalers. Store up your treasures in heaven. Yes. Store your treasures in, yes. You can buy any amount. You don't have to buy 1 Bitcoin. Guys, go listen to the talks, man. Why are you yapping if you don't talk about it? No, DARPA did not create Bitcoin. That's stupid. Why am I so confident in it? Go watch the podcast and the talks on it. It's like, how many times do I have to be right about stuff? I was telling you when Bitcoin was $1,500 when I started buying it in 2017, that we're going to be 10,000, we're going to be 50,000, we're going to be 100,000. And then when we got to those milestones, you people still sit here arguing with me over this. Why? Like, what is fundamentally wrong with you guys? So again, this is so dumb, man. Epstein put money into Bitcoin. Everybody in the world who has high IQ puts money into Bitcoin. Good people and wicked people. Gold is a better form of currency than fiat. Well, guess what? All the wicked people in the world invest in gold.
Well, I'm not going to have gold because the wicked people buy it.
See, you guys, listen, I'm trying to tell you something. You're your own worst enemy. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You're your own worst enemy. All right, we're not talking about Bitcoin today because it's not a conversation that you children are able to have yet. You're too immature and you're too childish to have adult conversations. So we're not even going to talk about it. It's a bell curve, right? So it's the meme of the dumb guy and the genius guy, right? They invest in Bitcoin. It's all the know-it-alls who are the midwits that repeat endlessly the FUD from 10 years ago because they think it makes them sound smart.
Well, you see, this was created by the CIA and the DARPA, which I heard some person on a podcast say. I've not actually read any books on the subject, but I did hear a podcast person say it, and it was on MSNBC, and so I'm going to repeat it because it makes me sound smart in the chat.
Yeah, just HFSP. Good job. Anyway, so no more of that. If you talk shit on it, it's immediate boot. And I don't care whether you like it or not. I don't care. Because it's people like you that were the ones that would have kept me from investing. You see, I have a bit of a bitterness there because I remember conspiracy theorists like Mike Adams, for example, in 2016 saying how bad and fake Bitcoin was. And I was about to buy some when it was $100. And I had a guy offer to give me 2 Bitcoin on a wallet when it was $100. But I was a smart genius conspiracy man and I knew everything about it. And that's a trap and it's tracked and traced and it's the beast currency and all this nonsense. And I listened to retards. So you in the chat are the retards. And you are the reason that you are broke. And if you want a piety signal, I'm going to boot you too. I don't care. Just get lost. Like, I don't want you here. This is not for slow boys. I don't have any patience for this stuff anymore, man. I've been right about all this shit at least for 15, 20 years. Okay. I was wrong about Bitcoin 15 years ago, but I was right about Bitcoin 9 years ago. Okay. I was right about all the shit we're talking about. I was right about the WEF and what it was all about. So you guys will listen to idiots who don't know anything. But the person who's constantly right about stuff, you won't listen to. Why? Like, explain to me your thought process. Like Candace. You'll listen to Candace, who can't even pronounce 7th grade words, but you won't listen to me because I'm jealous. Sure. This is who you listen to.
True, but you have to be able to, we want the CEO and the chairman of Turning Point USA to answer, okay? If you can't compartmentalize, then I don't see how you're going to be able.
Compartmentalize? Does she mean compartmentalize? What even word is she talking about?
We don't like them. We don't agree with the industries they went into. All of that can be true, but you have to be able to compartmentalize that.
You got to be able to compartmentalize, right? This is an education where you compartmentalize.
When you are looking at a case, long before this ever broke out between her and Justin Baldoni, that we have to compartmentalize. Blake Lively.
So she constantly does this. She doesn't know the word.
Is not a good person. Or Donald Trump from the #MeToo movement. It is very important to compartmentalize how you feel about somebody personally.
She actually thinks the word is compartmentalize. Let's see some of these other great words like.
It was about the architecture. I want you to understand. But really, it was about the architecture. I want you to understand.
The architecture. So this is not a smart person. This is not a genius.
sitting there across from Alex Clark, like, Catholic, no, he just liked the architecture. And I no
Architecture more than once.
longer accept him and Erica. And he liked the smells and the bells. He loved the architecture.
The architecture.
There's 1,000 ways that you can honor Charlie. Stop telling us that it has to always be Miss Macabre. Like, we have to have the bloody Mike. And
She thinks macabre is macabre. Macabre.
everybody uses the term blitzkrieg. And the NFL football team say
Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is blitzkrieg. Chat GBT.
not this like chat GBT.
Chat GBT.
Causes this whole
So, I mean, I'm realizing I am way too overestimating, or maybe I should come up with a new, overestimating. I'm overestimating way too many people's intelligence and capabilities. That's what's happening here. And this is people think, oh, everyone's an agent. Everyone's some compromised, cunning, super mastermind like Pinky in the Brain. No, I'm thinking more and more people are retarded. Now, I'm not talking about the elite social engineers. What we talked about at the beginning of the show, that is a different class of people. I don't think we know those people for the most part. That's a bunch of PhDs and zillionaires, okay? And they're not in the news. They're not the focus, except for some of the, tech face lords, right? The tech overlords. So these people are just midwits. That's all it is. These are not intelligent midwit people who believe that it's Dunning-Kruger. And I know that's overused and that got run into the ground, but that's what this is, right? It's midwits who believe that they are far more capable and far more knowledgeable than they actually are.
Prince Harry abdicates England, causes this whole race kerfluffle. Now we've got Nicola Peltz. People were like, is this really over a wedding dress? We knew a kerfluffle happened.
Kerfluffle.
An open genocide for starving people. You, in this moment, have retired Green Beret and the...
Green Berets. Green Berets. Green Berets.
Former lieutenant colonel, I actually think he's still a lieutenant colonel of the Army, Tony Aguilar. He sat down with Tucker Carlson, and he is describing, he actually went an open genocide for starving people. You, in this moment, have retired Green Beret and...
Green Berets. So these are not intelligent people. These are midwit people that the midwit and low-tard public has become convinced are high IQ geniuses. That's what's going on. And that's dangerous. So she doesn't even know the words that are on her teleprompter. Like those are 7th grade level reading words that are new to her. And this is your prophet. This is the one that you think is taking down TPUSA and all this stuff. Like Robin said, nothing has convinced me of how stupid she actually is than this week with her struggling to pronounce 7th grade level reading words. So now we're beginning to get and understand what's really going on. All right, so let's look at the summary from the Grok here when it comes to F. William Engdahl's great book, Full Spectrum Dominance, and his other works. What are the stages and what are the phases and the plans behind color revolutions and how do they actually work? Well, it says that color revolutions are described as U.S. covert warfare for regime change. It uses nonviolent tactics, at least initially it's nonviolent. It eventually becomes violent. And eventually they install pro-Western, pro-CIA governments. This was used, for example, all throughout the post-Soviet bloc states. And this was the Brzezinski Ark of Crisis. And this was intended to isolate Russia and then control all those energy routes. These operations are framed as cheaper alternatives to military intervention, and they draw on Rand Corporation concepts like swarming. Remember a minute ago when we mentioned the Arab Spring? The Arab Spring was actually used on it used the bases from the Rand Corporation, that the swarming model out of the 60s student riots that they had formed. In other words, Rand had formulated these models of how to use swarming techniques in the 1960s from the Chicago riots and whatnot. So again, this is a very studied technology that's used over and over in other countries. And they did that here with the Russian Soviet bloc countries to make them into neoliberal, pro-Western states. It involves NGOs, media manipulation, and youth activism. So the basic phases are preparation and training. Opposition groups and activists are identified and trained through nonviolent resistance methods. This includes organizing strikes, symbolic communications. This is what we're seeing this week with the Signal app and the transmissions between all these leftist Democrat government officials and activists. And this is intended to overcome regime authority. This often occurs through seminars. It's funded by U.S. entities, including the swarming techniques for agile, coordinated actions using technology, cell phones, internet, social media messaging. Excuse me. Funding organizations and support NGOs. For example, Ingdahl often refers to National Endowment for Democracy. That's Soros, CIA connected, as well as Soros's own Open Society Institute, the International Republican Institute, etc. All these very boring sounding things are used to manipulate and socially engineer. What do they do? Well, they set up financial resources. They get into media. So they do polls and polling, and look at this poll. The dictator is polling so bad, he must be overthrown. We got to overthrow Assad. They train the activists. They set up parallel voting systems. So note this, that throwing elections was a technology and a technique that the CIA had perfected decades ago. They also use PR firms that help with branding and messaging for the color revolution. Then it engages in a high intensity propaganda and media manipulation operation. Pre-planned media campaigns amplify narratives of regime corruption and electoral fraud. Symbols are used, particularly colors, such as Rose Revolution, Orange Revolution, Otpor in Serbia, or Pura in Ukraine, graffiti, digital tools, blogs, chat rooms, all build public momentum. International media outlets then are positioned to broadcast protest images. So the Western media then participates in broadcasting the uprisings in Ukraine against the dictator, who was it, Poroshenko, or whoever's prior to Zelensky. The dictator Assad must be overthrown, right? The dictator, whoever. It's all manufactured propaganda. And of course, over the last few decades, as you guys know, many instances of these broadcasts were actually shown to be fraudulent, or they were broadcasting other events and portraying them as, right, the overthrow of dictator whoever. So next is the street protest and the mobilization of the activists, and they use the Rand Corporation swarming technique, right? This is what you're seeing right now with the Democrat activists and the tracking and tracing, the doxing, etc., of the ICE law enforcement individuals. The mobile groups, aka the Signal group that we just talked about, they use hit-and-run swarming tactics to evade security forces. They then escalate into mass demonstrations. They engage in civil disobedience strikes, occupations of key sites, CHOP, Chaz. We just had people storming a hotel. Protests are then timed around elections or some crisis to maximize the impact. So notice, never let a good crisis go to waste. Now remember, we've been talking about this as it is now rolling out in America. We've been talking about this for over 10 years. Go listen to my Ingdahl interview from 10 years ago. F. William Engdahl, lost hegemon and full spectrum dominance. Look at that. 10 years ago. Now, everyone else is just now figuring out what we told you about 10 years ago. You would think that more people would be listening to the people who told you 10 years ahead of time what was happening and what types of color revolution CIA techniques would be used in America domestically. No, none of that matters. All we care about is time traveling Sumerian technology from the Slay Queens, not the actual real information of how this stuff works, but the bullshit from the new Oprah. That's what you guys want. And you want to talk shit to me about Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin 10 years ago was $100 and now it's almost $100,000. So you are your own worst enemy. Do you not understand this? What's next? Well, the exploitation of the crisis with the expected regime collapse. Claims of fraud. This triggers widespread unrest. The opposition leaders are prematurely declare victory. They exploit the elite divisions and pressure for resignations or new elections, leading to the old regime's downfall. Then we have the consolidation of power. A pro-U.S. government is installed, sometimes via emergency measures or manipulated follow-up elections, thus securing control over the resources and geopolitically isolating rivals like Russia. Engdahl cites prototypes like Serbia's 2000 bulldozer revolution against Milosevic, Georgia's 2003 Rose Revolution, and the Ukraine 2004 Orange Revolution. Of course, Soros had a huge role, especially in the Orange Revolution. And Soros, of course, has openly talked about that. And that was back when Soros was directly working with the CIA, when there was more of an open policy of, well, that was actually in the Reagan era when it was transitioning away from CIA operations to being under the cover of humanitarian aid operations. Oh, had to sneeze. Let's read a few super chats here before we continue. Brendan, what's up? Design, what's up? Jay, can I get a get well soon for my friend Ethan and Kim? Ethan and Kim, get well soon. Kyle Norton. Kylo Ren, $8. I just watched Conspiracy Theory. I'm absolutely fired up. Yeah, that's a classic. And in fact, I'm really happy with this new channel, Clips channel. If you would like to check out some of my stuff that's being clipped over here at Esoteric Hollywood Archive, the guy that's running that, I assume it's a guy. I'm sorry to dead name you if you're not. You can go over here and it's already popping off. Within a few weeks, we've got videos with 30,000 views, 60,000 views, 25,000 views, etc. And they just put up a new one from Kubrick. Kubrick was showing us in plain sight. Babylon, 10 days ago, it's already had almost 40,000 views. So Esoteric Hollywood Archive is popping off. And the one that actually popped off first was Mel Gibson's Conspiracy Theory right here. 60,000 views in just a couple weeks. So props to Esoteric Hollywood Archive. You guys be sure and follow them. It's popping off, by the way. And of course, everybody who wants to, feel free to clip my stuff, clip anything, share it, just if you would link back to me. Otherwise, you can have full use and full freedom to clip as ye list. Now, one thing that's not mentioned in this, which does come up in quite a few of these color revolutions, is there are also at times black ops operatives, and this happened in the case of the Ukraine situation. I think it also happened in the case of earlier attempts at overthrowing Assad, is the positioned snipers. So sometimes they will also hire mercenaries or hitmen or black ops people to snipe from the crowd or from some location into the crowd. And that gives the impression then that you have the people ready to go with media to say that the regime is now assassinating people, right? Now, in the case of what's happening in the past few days, it's not exactly necessarily parallel to everything, but it's the exact same model and strategy. You have the highly organized approach of getting together all of these leftists. We had, tens of thousands of people show up in Minneapolis. Let me see if I've got it saved over here. Minneapolis. I'm not going to fall into a damn hypocrisy state where I'm like Candace and I can't pronounce no words. Minneapolis. We over here in Minneapolis. I thought I saved the protest video. Maybe I didn't, but so just a few days ago, we had downtown Minneapolis. I always want to say, I think since I was a little kid, you want to say Minneapolis. It's Minneapolis. Minneapolis. I'm going full Candace over here. Minneapolis. Mentopolis. Metropolis. We over here in Metropolis. That's not what I was looking for the big ICE protests. ICE, baby. Do. Why is this not coming up? This was everywhere like a few days ago. Anyway, I'm sure you guys saw it, but it showed that you had massive amounts of crowds of people. And what's so crazy is all of these leftists in these places they're all on board with this. They want to be conquered. They want to become Muslim. They want to be beat down. This is how deracinated and insane all of these people are. I think here we go. Here's some of it.
There's gonna be more of us the more you fucking get wrong side.
You guys have to put out five fucking coward. You know how long you're gonna last without somebody getting somebody out there?
These fat liberal white women, dude. What is wrong with these people? These people are absolutely insane. Their minds are addled on SSRIs. They have lost their mind, but this is not new. Not only is the strategy of astroturfing and organizing this and bussing people in and all that well known, it's also the older strategy going back to the French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution to let criminals out of the jails and let them be the revolutionaries, because the criminals have the same psychology as the people of the left. Perpetual victims. Have you ever listened to interviews with serial killers or, hardened criminals? Wouldn't you know? They're all innocent. It's not their fault. They never did anything wrong. It's the system, man. It's society, man. It's not my fault that I was eating people's, toes. That ain't my fault. The society did that to me, man. I grew up in hardened economic circumstances. It forced me to kill people and eat toes, man. That ain't my fault. I mean, this is going crazy, dude. Oh, this is a flashback to the George Floyd protest, right? Check this out. Same stuff. Watch this. Just randomly getting violent for no reason. as a BIPOC person, I have to apologize for my people acting a fool like that, acting crazy.
Jonathan, really quickly, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you right now because we're watching live pictures right now. It looks like either Border Patrol agents or law enforcement agents are taking down someone right now and arresting them. And we can see what's been happening here in the last several minutes is that this is just becoming an intense situation. And I don't see any other local law enforcement in the area. I know that Garrett Tenney said state police are on the scene.
Well, they all were saying to defund the police a few years ago. And now they want open borders. They want no police. So I wonder why there's no police there. And then also the mobs of insane leftists then attack the people that are trying to enforce the law to prevent their societies from being their cities from being completely overrun, and they want to be dominated. So we've gone from, in the 1950s, the Reese Committee saying, hey, we're being indoctrinated with moral relativism and absolute brainwashing madness. This might lead to bad places. And then here we are 75 years later, and giant hordes of mobs of insane people are attacking the one thing standing in the way of the whole society collapsing. Absolutely insane. This is so wild. But it's exactly what we read that is the strategy used by the CIA in other countries. It's not just the CIA, it's the think tank NGO Foundation complex, which has studied this through countless PhD papers. They've figured out the technology of engineering regime change, coup operations, black ops. It all ties in. It's a technology. And you can roll that plan out anywhere. In fact, I did a video back during 2018, I think. About this thing as well, the same technique. I think all of my videos just are basically buried. They just don't even come up. No, it's not any of these. Anyway, but all of the people, the masses, they get caught up in the immediacy of the drama of, oh, this person got, punched. This person unfortunately got, unalived. This event, they provoked this person and this tragedy happened. All of that is by design too. Now, I'm not saying that I know for sure that any of these people intentionally were taken out, but what I'm saying is that the left needs the martyrs to energize the support to feel justified. Once they feel justified, they go to the next level. It ramps up, right? Because now there's blood. Oh, there's blood on your hands, Trump. You caused this. Now, there's plenty of reasons to criticize Trump, but Trump didn't cause this by trying to enforce the law. This is so insane. Every country in the world, especially China, has strict border enforcement rules. You can't just go anywhere you want. But where did we get this idea that we need to have open borders and there should be absolute free movement of exchange of goods and business opportunities and whatever? I wonder who has, for many decades, promoted this idea. Can you think of a political ideology that has promoted this idea that has led to this right here? So all of these people think that anyone covering this stuff, I'm not sure who Jake Lang is, but they beat him up and pushed him out. I mean, guys, remember back in 2016 when Gavin McInnes and Stefan Molyneux were covering the Trump election and the dude got hit with the bike lock? And both Gavin McInnes and Stefan Molyneux came to the conclusion that we're not at the point where people are rational anymore. They have lost their reasoning faculty, and they've been given over to a depraved mind, like Paul talks about. this mob of people is enslaved to their passions, and they become the perfect golem that you can move and control. It's like a giant hive mind of a demon. And you can send it where you need it to go. That is the purpose of the Rand Corporation swarming studies. Swarming is what bees do. And they were studying bees and saying, how can we create a hive mind of human bees to swarm these things? Yeah, Tavistock too. It's not just Rand Corporation, but all those things work together. Rand, Tavistock, but specifically studying the 1960 student riots is what Rand did to figure out the model of swarming as a technology for engineered revolution. And yes, they tied in the last 15 years social media, particularly beginning with the Arab Spring. That's where they first rolled out the marketing of revolution. Now you'll notice these people don't care whether you're somebody's saying Jake Lang is a Zionist. I don't know who Jake Lang is, but this mob doesn't care, right? They think you're just if you believe in the enforcement of the laws, you're somehow a fascist, which is just absolutely insane. So you can watch just hours and hours of this. It is never ends. And I don't exactly know what's going on with this. This woman thought that she would be able to throw a flash grenade back at ICE, and then it made her hand got popped off.
And pushing these state troopers back from where they were standing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you couched it very well by saying what the moment
going
called
off
for.
again. Here we go again.
I mean,
Paul.
this is inevitable. They're outnumbered. They're going to do this.
I mean, what else can they do? They're outnumbered, Paul.
No, there's not much. There's not much they can do. They're being put into this situation by the decisions that are being made by the mayor and the chief of police. I'm sorry, but that's the case. They're just not taking control of their city. I can't imagine, under the police commissioners that I worked for, any police commissioner, any police executives, allowing this kind of chaos to obtain.
But you understand, these people feel justified, and they believe in their revolutionary ethos that this is going to fix society. They're going to install their whatever idiocy nonsense that they think they're going to have, right? They're going to end the fascism. They're going to have what? You have a bunch of damn PDFs and TRAN, Tifa running everything. Now let's go back to the 1960s, the student riots at here at Berkeley. This is what the Rand Corporation was studying to figure out the technology to do what you see here. So this is being studied for 60 plus years now. Now, what has changed from the 1960s till now? Not a whole lot, because neither side, if you look back at this, we could say, aha, what a bunch of goofy boomers. Both sides were wrong. Yeah, kind of like now. Now, what am I saying? Am I saying both sides are wrong? Well, not in the sense of what most people think, right? It's not a situation of, well, you're either a fascist enforcing the border laws or you are a anarchist. No, it's more complex than that, because it's not ultimately a situation of Trump fascism versus leftist, socialist, whatever this nonsense is. Just like if you go back to the Cold War or to the 1960s, both of these groups are wrong. They're both flawed. They're both dialectical oppositions. Now, what am I saying is a dialectical opposition here? Well, I mean, it's really, there's more legality that's correct in the sense of what Trump is doing than what the establishment was doing back in the 1960s, because they're protesting, the war, which I would say there's more legitimacy protesting the war than there is protesting the freaking border the laws about the border. I mean, that to me, that's insane that we would, I mean, to be so, that'd be like saying I must tear down the, you know, the wall around my house. I must tear it down. The walls of my house must be torn down because it's fascism as long as I have a fence around my house and walls of my house. That's bourgeois capitalist fascism. I mean, having borders around your country is no different than having borders around your neighborhood or your house. It's just a bigger scale. Imagine trying to just thinking like how stupid these people are. This is so insane that they want to, but it's the same thing in the LA riots, right? Remember the Rodney King riots, LA riots? You're going to destroy your own neighborhoods, your own businesses, your own community to do what exactly? Because of fascism? Okay. Bobby, $5. At first, I thought the new Hobbit song was trash. I guess not. It's not too bad. It ain't trash. You're gay, $10. Oh, that's my shit. My ninja. Hick alert. Hick at heart, $2. You're not subscribed to Cleve? There's a lot of people whose channels I'm not subscribed to, but it doesn't mean I don't follow them or I don't watch them. Most of my closest allies and friends, I'm not necessarily subscribed to their channels, and that's because I've tried to now collate my algorithm to be very specific. In fact, the other night I noticed that I was subscribed to all kinds of retarded channels from like 15 years ago when I first got on YouTube. So I basically unfollowed like 150 dumb, stupid things from 15 years ago that I don't care about. I was like, why did I ever follow this? What the heck is this? So I have tried to cultivate what I see. Dire Wire 007, $5. Great Clips channel says, leave Candace alone. That was actually the authentic pronunciation. I'm going to start saying it like we're going to do a whole show. Authentic pronunciation. Yakub changed words pronunciations to actually make the white man sound smarter. Smarter. It's pronounced smarter. JB Pelte, $5. Candace rejects the pronunciation of French words like Barrett because she will not be controlled by Macron and his man. Oh, that's what it is. It's actually a super high IQ troll to fight against Macron. Mr. Jellyfish, $5. Wasn't John Wayne Gacy actually a prominent Democratic Party member? Absolutely. He was a canvasser. He was an activist. He lived only, I think, a few blocks away from where Hillary's from. And he is pictured with Jimmy Carter's wife, Rose Carter. Now, why is a serial killer so closely connected to high-level political? And by the way, he's wearing a pin in the picture with Rose Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife, showing that he had been cleared by the Secret Service. And remember, years ago, we did multiple podcasts on the serial killers, covering all their weird, inexplicable connections and things that make absolutely no sense. 5 years ago, 4.5. We did all the major ones. In this one, we covered Savile, Gacy, and we updated it because a lot of people don't know about the Clown and Candyman information, right? So the Clown and Candyman podcast vindicated a lot of the theories of people like McGowan because it connects them to other creepers like Paskey and a guy named Norman. Those are the last names. Showing that there appears to have been networks that were involved in taking out people, and that John Wayne Gacy and at least a couple other key serial killers, the Candyman and the Candyman's another serial killer if you don't know, that it may have been more than just, weird sickos, but they might have actually been involved in a network that could engage in targeted hits. And they might have actually had high level protection. It's hard to know exactly what's going on in a lot of these cases. So there's definitely theory involved here. So I'm being very precise. When I conspiracy theorize, I always let you guys know this is a theory. But there is some interesting things that have backed up this theory, namely the recent information about Gacy that even WGN out of Chicago did a whole bunch of installments on updating the information on Gacy and his connection to Paskey and Norman, which were theorized and now have been confirmed. So there was connection and networking between, how can I put this? Basically, they are into, it's a young men gay thing. Does that make sense? And they were networking with this super creeper guy who basically had like a Rolodex I had a bunch of index cards of people who were purchasing BDSM weird photos type stuff, right? Of young people, men, and perhaps other types of 8mm types of material. Does that make sense? Yes, that kind of stuff. Right. And people brought this up in regard to Gacy a long time ago, and it was all just sort of hand waved and brushed away. But yes, NAMBLA type stuff. Correct. Yes. What is the name? Let me think of the name of that guy. Let's see. I think if we do John Wayne Gacy, WGN, and then Paskey is the super gross creeper dude. Yes, the accomplices. This might be it.
Young boys. Larry?
He was known as the Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy murdered 33 young men and was executed in 1993. But we're learning the Gacy story may not be over. New details of the investigation have only recently come to light and may show Gacy didn't act alone. 33 years after his arrest, there are still lingering questions about John Wayne Gacy. Terry Sullivan was on the prosecution team.
I felt that from the beginning that there may be loose ends. It was such a huge case, and especially at the time.
The idea of a Gacy accomplice was raised from the beginning by Jeffrey Rignall. He is one of a few people who survived Gacy's attack. He said another man was at Gacy's home the night Gacy raped him. Attorneys Robert Stevenson and Steve Becker have been trying to help families of victims find answers. They've been getting tips from the public, and they've uncovered information that they say shows someone else may have been involved in some of the killings.
Let me skip ahead to see if I can find the Paskey part, because that's the key part. This is a WGN clip from 5 years ago. I think this is the clip I was thinking of, but there's more because there's also, it may just be in the Clown Candyman podcast. I can't remember.
Board. Gacy replies, from Elmer Wayne Henley. Henley and another boy helped serial killer Dean Corll, whose case has a lot of similarities with Gacy.
Yes, I forgot. Dean Corll is another one where we find the same pattern of apparent accomplices and high-level connections that seem to have been brushed under the rug. Okay, this isn't Paskey, though. Oh, no, I'm wrong. John Norman is the one I'm thinking of. It's John. No, I was getting Norman and Paskey mixed up. It's Norman is the weird creeper guy. Just wait till he's the archetype of the weird creeper guy. Watch this.
There was a lot of speculation at the time, and there still is a lot of speculation that there may have been others involved in some of those murders. Gacy always said he didn't kill all the boys, and he alluded to the idea that there could have been a bigger picture, that there may have been a snuff film operation. And
what'd I say? 8mm.
That some of these young men and
believe that I alone committed these murders, and I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone.
If anybody was involved, then how many people are we talking about beside yourself?
We believe there was 4 people involved, and that would be Michael Rossi, David Cram, Philip Paskey.
Both Rossi and Cram denied any knowledge of Gacy's murders or of any of their involvement in anything.
Phil Paskey was from Chicago. he, you know, he was one of those people who got into trouble, didn't, you know, did a little drugs, did a little of this.
This is the guy I'm talking about. He looks like Stephen King, by the way. This is the Norman guy.
And somehow John Norman came into his life.
So the story goes like this. There's a guy named John Norman. Norman does some jail time for assaulting some kids in Homewood, Illinois. While he's in the Cook County Jail, using the jail printing press, he creates this newsletter, the Delta Project, this sex trafficking ring that's going to men who want to have sex with boys.
And while he was in Cook County Jail,
You get the idea. I don't want to, if I play this, it's going to ding the algorithm too much. So here is this clip you can watch. This is some documentary, I guess, about John Norman and Gacy, but that's what I was talking about. Okay, so thank you for reminding me of that jellyfish. Gabe Hins, $5. I never thought I'd see the day where liberal protesting libs are protesting federal agents doing their job. There was not a word from any of these people when Obama was doing it. Yeah, exactly. Because they're mind controlled, just absolute mind blasted. They're not at home, dude. They're gone. Millstone, $5. Jay, any insight why it's Minneapolis? Yes, in fact, I was curious about that, and I think Lord Voldemort had the best explanation for this. So that's been for a long time a big blue city Democrat stronghold. So that's one reason. And you've got Tim Walz, who has had many, many years visiting China. And there's a lot of speculation and, seems plausible, in my opinion, that he is probably some degree of a Chinese operative. So I would say that, and certainly the collapse and internal divisions in the U.S. would benefit China. When I say that, I'm not saying that, oh, see, and look over here at China. Don't look at the Middle East and Bibi or anything. I'm not saying that. In fact, Bibi and China have deals. In fact, Middle Eastern intelligence has sold our secrets to China for decades. This is not antithetical to that. It makes perfect sense with that. So if you were going to cultivate future relationships with future allies that might be future world contenders and a world power, and you see that your host nation, the United States, is failing, you might jump ship and start making alliances with China. So there's nothing antithetical to, well, are you saying it's the Middle Eastern country or are you saying it's China? It's not either or, dummies. So I think that Tim Walz is playing a key role as a stooge, as an operative to help collapse the country, basically. And it's precisely because he probably is compromised or is, that's my opinion, or it's something to do with China, foreign interference. That's why. Makes perfect sense. So we have the Podesta plan. We have the outline of color revolution models, how they work. You trigger it with, you get the violence, the martyrdom. We have the, don't forget that the Catholic charities play a big role in this. So I want to play Cleve had a good point when he did his stream the other day talking about Catholic charities, because it turns out Roman Catholics are trying to say, oh, well, look, I'm Catholic, but Catholic charities doesn't have anything to do with Catholicism. Yes, it does. In fact, the United States Conference for Catholic Bishops has even said on their website that they support the migrants and the open borders policies. And then the Catholics, oh, well, it's not really Catholic. It's more so an NGO that's affiliated with the Democratic Party. Yeah, like the Roman Catholic Church in America. The Roman Catholic Church is an NGO of the Democratic Party, you goobers. That's what the point is. So it absolutely is affiliated with Catholicism. And here, let's listen to Cleve talk about this.
He's going to be talking about it some more. So, I mean, this is how they get views. They continue with the drama, this crazy insanity, Roman Catholic people on Grindr and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Anyway, so Sam Shimon posts, this session provides receipts and facts which explain why I know bishops seeks the maximum amount of shared.
Let me skip ahead a little bit. By the way, I forgot to plug my other camera in. We got multiple cameras now. As you guys know, we're an official podcast. We are now one of the first official podcasts on the internet. We have multiple camera angles now, including the 007 Diva angle. But I forgot to plug my camera in. So let me plug it in because I want you to get the full visage, all the beauty angles. But we'll listen to Cleve for a second here. Explain, no, this is not true that somehow Catholic Charities is not affiliated with Catholicism. Total nonsense.
A couple of different articles on this in the past, talking about the USCCB. Matter of fact, I might pull that up. Let me see if I can find my USCCB post, or I'll just go to their website. How about that? USCCB, refugee, resettlement. And we'll pull that up first, and then we will dive into the new section there about funding as funding the refugee crisis or something. Funding. USC. Yeah, there you go. Funding the refugee program. All right, let's share this and we'll dive into it. So before I even pull up the article, I'm just going to take you to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops website on the subject of the refugee crisis. Okay, so this is what they get paid to do. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, bishops of the Roman Catholic Church in America, receive funding to import a ton of refugees into the United States. Are you aware of this? This is what actually goes on, the Roman Catholic Church. USCCB engages with the federal appropriations process to obtain the maximum amount of funding needed to support the U.S. refugee program, which provides both overseas assistance and resettlement services to refugees. Each year, the USCCB advocates for funding.
Not only is this on the USCCB website, this is also the official Vatican policy since Vatican II via Gaudium et Spes. Remember, we did a whole podcast, a whole episode just on the Marxist Fabian Socialist positions in Vatican II's Gaudium et Spes document, which is the official Vatican II political stance of the papacy. So you can watch this. This is really only a 40-minute talk. Everybody needs to know this, because if you talk to Roman Catholic, I can already tell you, oh, that's just the liberal United States Catholic bishops. That's not the Vatican. You mean the Vatican that for the last several popes has said this is our official stance? Well, that's just their personal opinions on politics. We don't have to follow that. Do you have to follow Vatican II? Because it's in there too. Gaudium et Spes has an entire section on chain migration. So there is no refuge. Don't let the Roman Catholics throw up a bunch of smoke and mirrors and, well, I don't have to follow that one because I don't have to follow that. That's opinion. But no, you have to follow Vatican II. It's binding. All the documents are binding. Well, they're not infallible. It doesn't matter they're infallible. It can be non-infallible and binding. You are still bound to the official teaching of the Roman See, even if you disagree, even if it's not, quote, infallible. That's what canon law says. The current Roman Catholic canon law says you must submit even on the areas of the normative teaching, even if you disagree and you think it's wrong, even if it's not infallible. You submit with docility. And do any of the Roman Catholics submit with docility? No, they don't, except for the Novus Ordo normies. Do any of the Pop Apologists submit when they don't like it? No, they don't. They hand wave. I don't have to follow that. There you go. So remember, it is in Vatican II as well. Gaudium et Spes, which is really long, has a section on chain migration. And by the way, thanks to whoever alerted me to that, because I missed that in the actual document. Somebody on Twitter said, hey, you didn't even mention the chain migration part. I was like, well, crap, I missed that. I mean, not only does Gaudium et Spes have all this United Nations, globalist, socialist, obvious, just total nonsense. We got to create a new world order. I mean, it says all this. It also has the chain migration and the de-armament. So it's like gun control, disarm the nations. You can't defend yourself. Open border. I mean, it's crazy, dude. And this is, nobody talks about Gaudium et Spes. Literally, like in the whole sphere of all this, has anybody ever talked about Gaudium et Spes? Except for maybe like two obscure trad cats and myself. Like a couple sedevacantists and myself are the only people talking about Gaudium et Spes, because nobody reads these. Roman Catholics don't read this stuff. You think Roman Catholics are sitting there reading the 700 pages of Vatican II documents? They're not reading that. They don't care. Look, Roman Catholicism is a religion where you come in and you concoct the Roman Catholicism that you want, and that's what you push and sell. You want to be a uniate, that's Roman Catholicism. You want to be a trad cat crusader, go be that. You could make Catholicism that. You want to be a Mother Teresa praying in Hindu temples, which she did, go be that. That's what it is. That's real Roman Catholicism. So it's a never-ending shifting of the goalposts, make it into whatever you want it to be at the time. And in a way, that's its greatest strength in the sense of numbers, because it dupes so many people through that basically silly putty religion where you could turn it into whatever you want. You silly putty it into being a trad cat medieval crusader, or you silly putty it into being praying in the mosque towards Mecca. Make it whatever you want. But it's also its greatest weakness, right? That silly putty religion also means that it's incredibly weak when people start saying, hey, wait a minute, do these doctrines and dogmas have to make sense? Do they have to be consistent over time? Because once you start asking that question, it's only a matter of time before you become Orthodox. Or atheist, I guess. Because it ends up being it's basically the first megachurch, right? So before there was Joel Ovaltine, there was Roman Catholicism as the first megachurch. All right. Now, y'all, I appreciate all the super chats because y'all, I'm getting all distracted. Let's hear these Roman Catholics then say, "Oh, it's not Catholic, really." Yes, it is.
Levels that maximize the number of refugees assisted overseas and resettled in the United States.
Maximize the number. Add the USCCB website and listen to the Roman Catholic guys that come on then to try to Pope-splain it away. It's not really a Roman Catholic thing. Yes, it is.
So every year, we talked about this in the last live stream, but this is important for what we're about to discuss. So every year, the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, seeks the maximum amount of funding to bring as many refugees into the United States as possible. So this is why.
Also remember that a lot of people are forgetting this. Lord Voldemort covered it past few days, and people are beginning to figure this out with the Somali daycare thing. This is also a giant scam. So all of this tax money, it's not just going to bring illegals here. The Democrat operatives are also skimming the refugee money, getting a cut, and thus they make the more that come, the more money they get. And you better believe these Roman Catholic bishops, these disgusting Skittles bishops, are getting a cut of all this too. Absolutely.
Don't understand why guys like Nick Fuentes think that they can have Christian nationalism with a Roman Catholic undercurrent, with a Roman Catholic framework. Because the Roman Catholic Church openly supports mass migration into the United States. Pope Leo has made several statements to this effect. Their own
As did Francis on basically a weekly basis. Remember that? We covered that throughout the Francis pontificate. Francis was always talking about this. Leo now, Francis 2.0, of course.
States Conference of Catholic Bishops website says that is their goal. We want the maximum amount of funding so we can bring the maximum amount of refugees into the United States.
See, this is why people think, oh, you're so mean. You hate. I don't hate Catholics. I want them to not be deluded and tricked, because I was tricked. I fell into this throughout my 20s. I was a hardcore trad cat. And then I realized this whole thing is an organized crime criminal racket. from the top down for centuries. That's the problem. It's not Vatican II. It's not the liberals. It's not the Masons. It's the papacy as an institution for the last 1,000 years or so. That's the real problem. That's the final papal pill. You got to take the papacy pill, dog. You got to take that key pill. You swallowed the key pill yet?
What all of the people in Minnesota, the Somalians in Minnesota, they were brought in as refugees, okay? Lutheran NGOs helped them to get there. Roman Catholic NGOs helped them to get there, including the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Okay, so if you're against mass migration, if you're against demographic replacement, if you're against all of these things, do not be Roman Catholic. Do not give them your tithes. Do not give them your money. The U.S. government is already giving them.
Yes, the key point too, which I've been saying for a long time, you understand when you tithe to the Roman Catholic Church, you're tithing to your destruction. You might as well tithe directly to the Open Society Institute of George Soros. Just write your checks to the Rockefeller Foundation. Dear Rockefeller Foundation, thank you for destroying the country. Here's all of my money. Yes, let me give you more of my money.
Money. They're already giving them your tax dollars to flood our country with immigrants. But I bring this up to bring up this story here that was shared on X. Wall Street Apes reports. The main wire reveals Catholic.
Now, this is the Roman Catholic cope stream here from whoever these dudes are trying to explain this away that it's not technically Catholic. Yes, it is.
Charities has absolutely nothing to do with anything Catholic. It's just an NGO to import illegals.
Have these Roman Catholic bros not read the USCCB website? Apparently not. Have they not read the last 10 years of papal statements about open borders in Europe? No, guess not. Have they not read Gaudium et Spes? Absolutely, of course not.
What have I been saying this whole time? What have I been saying? Go watch the live stream I did with Luigi about 4 weeks ago on the Minnesota crisis. Vindicated in real time. He says there are multiple fake church NGOs that Democrats paid tens of billions to import illegals. There's a deliberate effort to resettle the Somali refugees by groups like Catholic Charities. You hear that? The Somali refugee crisis. Who's helping them? Whoa, we just read it. So Catholic Charities makes a huge amount of money moving people, migrants around to places in the country that don't necessarily vote to have that happen. By one lens, you might consider Catholic Charities to be a human
Let's talk about
trafficking
this document that we don't
because
use.
that's what they do. They get paid. They make huge amounts of money to take people who have crossed the border illegally and distribute them through the United States. Catholic Charities doesn't really have to do with anything with being Catholic. It's just a nonprofit that makes tons of money and has some kind of affiliation with the Catholic Church. The Lutherans do this as well. We just reported on this. We reported on this a month ago. Okay. There are tons of organizations that are in this migrant resettlement business and they cloak it in. How big is the business? Billions of dollars, billions, tens of billions of dollars. During the Biden administration, the amount of money that was dumped into these, it starts to be mind-numbing, the amounts of money that are dumped on these organizations. Let's watch the clip real quick, because we were talking about this not that long ago. Roman Catholic NGOs, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Catholic Charities, all of these are human trafficking organizations that serve to resettle migrants from outside of the country.
Again, that is so important to understand. This is large industrial scale human trafficking. And the Roman Catholic institution, both the Vatican and the United States Roman Catholic Church, participate in this, openly support it, openly fund it, openly make money from it, and openly say all the way back to Gaudium et Spes and Vatican II, this is what we want. And no trad cats can figure this out, or if they do figure it out, they suppress it and hand wave it and try to cover it up. Roman Catholicism is about covering it up over and over and over, which shows you, now wait a minute, is the Holy Spirit leading and guiding this institution? Why is it covering up crimes? I thought the Holy Spirit was there to expose and shed light on evil and crimes. Doesn't Paul say expose the deeds of wickedness? Does he say cover it up, or does he say expose it to the light of day? He says expose it. So these poor Cath bros Listen, I'm not your enemy, Catholics. I know a lot of y'all hate me. You can't stand me. But I want you to do well. I assure you, I want you guys to flourish. I want you guys to do well. I want you guys to live a happy, successful, fruitful life. To not be miserable, drunk all the time, because you're in mortal sin and you got to confess again and then again. And it's all just nonsense. It's all a religion of dead works, as Paul talks about. I think people, they can't conceive that I actually love and care about people. No, he's mean. Maybe I just actually care. What if that's what's going on? Let's do the Dr. Phil, and you go, is it possible? Is it possible that maybe he's right? What if Jay Dyer's right and he actually cares about y'all? Is it possible that he's not angry and mean and maybe he just cares? Is that possible? The little Dr. Phil going easy on y'all.
To the United States, and this is all being done with your tax dollars.
What you see happening is it's a program at first. Yes, there is a deliberate effort to resettle the Somali refugees by groups like Catholic Charities. So Catholic Charities makes a huge amount of money moving people, migrants, around to places in the country that don't necessarily vote to have that happen. You might, by one lens, you might consider Catholic Charities.
See, this is why we oppose it so vehemently. It's not just some nerdy theological speculation that nobody cares about the word, energetic manifestation and Blackerne, and who cares about the filioque doesn't even matter. No, this does matter. It's not just the filioque is what leads to the That's my argument. What? Yes, filioque equals importation of these people. It's a long chain of argumentation to get there, but it is correct.
A human trafficking organization, because that's what they do. They get paid. They make huge amounts of money to take people who've crossed the border illegally and distribute them throughout the United States.
This is great, Steve. I'm Catholic.
Well,
didn't know this.
Well, good for you. Catholic Charities doesn't really have anything to do with being Catholic.
Really? Now, again, this ends up being no true Scotsman, because he's going to say, well, it's not actually the Catholic position to import migrants. Is it? Because chain migration is in Gaudium et Spes. So it is the Catholic position. In fact, it's fully papal to do this.
Except for them being associated with the Roman Catholic Church.
And the official Vatican position, not just in the US, on the USCCB website, but also back to Gaudium et Spes. So props to Cleve for covering that one. That was a good contradiction to catch there. Now, I am not going to spend much time on this. I am going to mention it because it illustrates, once again, we're vindicated. What did I say about 6 to 8 months ago about Scam Shamu's drama? I said, give it time and the Ouroboros will manifest. What are you talking about? You speaking esoteric gibberish? No. The Ouroboros is the snake eating himself, eating his own tail. With these weirdo prima donnas like William Albrecht, the biggest liar on the internet, he lies more than Lofton or anybody. He's just insane levels of lies, right? What did I tell you? This weirdo, just give it time and some nonsense is going to fly off the handle. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly we've got Scam Shamu. I don't want anything to do with Albrecht. He's the worst person on the internet. I told you in no time. Give it a few months. I said 6 months to a year, they'll hate each other. Vindicated. Told you. Now, allegedly, to use the Cat Williams phrase, allegedly, William Albrecht allegedly faked a Grindr profile of some other no-name Roman Catholic apologist I've never heard of. And this has offended the other Roman Catholics because, as Cleve noted, this was cracking me up the other night, the Roman Catholics have all spent many hours studying the Grindr profiles and the pictures. They've all got the receipts. They spent many hours studying the Grindr pictures and profiles, and they know very well how Grindr works. I'm not joking. You can't make this up. And they've discovered that, no, Divine Mercy Apologetics does not have a Grindr profile. It was actually faked by some other William Albrecht adjacent Skittles person. Yeah. How about this? They're all gay. My theory is they're all in a big, stupid gay fight because they're all jealous of their other butt buddies. That's what's going on. That's the real story. And I was dying laughing when Cleve was covering this, talking about, now, wait a minute. How did that, you spent how long?
I spent the last 2 weeks studying these Grindr pictures and learning the ins and outs of Grindr's code and actually how to sign up for the website and what it actually takes to upload all your photos. And I downloaded all the photos of all the interested parties, and I've done a lot of top-notch research. I've got top men and bottom men. Top men and bottom men are involved in this case, and we have come to the conclusion that Grindr is fully, first of all, a Catholic website. There's nothing actually anti-Catholic about it. So that's number one. It has an imprimatur from Cardinal Mahoney. Cardinal Mahoney gave Grindr an imprimatur. And secondly, it is in fact false. Anyway, I'm not joking. So this is actually what's going on in the Roman Catholic apologetic world. Who knows what's really going on? Again, they're all, I told you, there's all a bunch of, again, why are these Roman Catholics even involved in gay stuff anyway? Oh, because they're Roman Catholics. Exactly. So listen to this.
Shimon craziness. Because that was wild. You know what? I'll go ahead and I'll cover it now. Let's cover the Sam Shimon. Let's do a little Sam Shimon stuff. So what brought me? So this is the craziest story of this entire stream. Okay. So this involves Sam Shimon, William Albrecht, and Divine Mercy Apologetics. I was actually this guy brought this to my attention. So Talon Papist, the rising star, by the way.
No, he's the worst. He's worse than all the worst. There's no one worse than that guy. But he's the one that first called attention to this, I suppose. So let's skip ahead, because basically all you need to know is that William Albrecht alleged that Divine Mercy Apologetics was on Grindr and was showing himself to people or something. And then all this other sphere of Shamoon and these other people said, oh, William has made this up, and William and his allies, and I'm sure William has allies in the gay sense, they have actually engineered this. Now, I don't care about Sam Shamoon at all, but I do not trust anything that William Albrecht says. So first of all, I can tell you that dude lies all the time. For example, for many years, people have said, why will you not do a public debate with Albrecht? Well, you can ask Ubi. Ubi and I both have attempted on more than one occasion to set up debates with William Albrecht. And what invariably happens is that he will agree to a date about 6 to 8 months ahead. Okay. This happened to me twice. It happened, no, 3 times. 3 times with me and once or twice with Ubi. As the date approaches, William will then say, I need to reschedule, blah, blah, blah has happened. Okay. I'll give you another 3 months, another 4 months, whatever. Then as the next date approaches, some drama happens to where he will not interact or engage with you because of blah, 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 and your moral infractions, right? So this happened to me back in, I want to say 2018. We had this whole drama with Albrecht happen. Recycle this, again it happens. Recycle last year it happened. And I chronicled it on my shorts where Andrew live called. He called into Shamoon and Albrecht's thing and said, do you want to set up this debate with Dyer? Yes, we'll do it. Let's do it. Then Sam Shamoon, oh, I'm not going to interact with any of you because Wilson knows Dyer. So he backs out of it. But we get Leather Daddy to agree. Yes, he's going to do it. Let me play you the clip where he agrees to do it. And then he backs out because of whatever I don't remember. He says, I never agreed to it. Well, here's Andrew live texting and calling Albrecht where Albrecht agrees to it. And then Albrecht says, oh, I didn't ever agree to it. Those all lies.
And I said, does that work for you? And he said, does he agree to my thesis? If he does, then we are set. And I said, oh, well, can you rewrite it and make it more clear for me? And he said, okay, it's very difficult because I'm tending to my daughter now. Give me a few minutes and I'll write it out without typos. If he agrees, we're 100% set. And then all we have to do is iron out a date. And I said, yes, he agrees to that the post-Vatican II church contradicts the pre-Vatican II church magistrate tradition.
This was my offer. This was what he agreed to. It's what I agreed to.
I read Jay that exact message, and Jay said, I agree. I told him, yes, he agrees to that. That's it. It's done. It's locked in. And I said, does that work for you? And he said, does he agree?
So this was my third attempt in the last 7 years of setting up a debate with this goober, and I'm done. So that's why we never actually had a debate, is because he won't do it. He always pulls some big drama and says, oh, no, Jay is causing it. He's just an absolute liar. And I told Sam Shamoon a long time ago, I said, you're going to regret your butt buddy there that you're so close to. And what do you know? Who was right?
William Albrecht was like the last dude that was still doing streams with Sam Shamoun. So now he's like officially cut off everyone that he's worked with in the past. He's going to have to start scraping the bottom of the barrel to find new people to associate with. Because I guess, I don't know, everybody that he associates with in the past, he like burns bridges, it seems like. Anyway, pray for Sam. Obviously something's going on. But anyway, this explains why I no longer work or associate with William Albrecht. Watch it and be ready to get heartbroken and extremely angry at the lies and injustices that were carried out. So this is a super chat goal. I super appreciate it. We got a goal on this stream. I appreciate your support. I'm going to dive into this, but I might speed this up a little bit. I don't know why. What is up with Roman Catholic YouTubers and being super long-winded? When I was doing apologetic stuff, like
period. And Abel, you can come up if you'd like.
Now, let's apply our analysis that we gave of Roots of Orthodoxy and his grifting fraudery, which we called out day one. Because he did what? He put his YouTube play button behind him on his icon wall. What does this grifter do? He wears a cassock. Why is this fake-ass Skittles man YouTuber wearing a cassock? He's not a priest. LARPing. And then he's got some buff gay dude up there on his wall, Bill's Butcher House, next to Jesus with the Eucharist. Guys, these people are loons. They're psychos. They're narcissistic, weird fraud creeps. Can you not just see this? Can you not spot the frauds? Like, it's the exact same move as Roots of Orthodoxy. And you bet he's got a lisp. Why do you think I call him Leather Daddy? That dude is Skittles is all get out. You can't tell? By the way, this liar said in a chat years ago he was going to beat me up if he ever saw me in person. And I screenshotted that, not because I'm scared of this goober, but because it was so preposterous that instead of actually debating, he said he wanted to fight. And I said, are you serious? He said, you just better hope that we don't ever meet in person. Then he said he never said it. And I'm like, okay, so this dude is an absolute liar. Absolute liar. So is it any surprise that these drama queen, just lunatics have fallen out? Absolutely not. And what does it tell you? Bro, they're probably all on Grindr. They're probably all cheating on each other, and that's why they're all mad. They found new butt buddies, and that's why they're mad at each other. That's probably what's going on. Watch that come out.
To come up, please come up and confirm. I even have a bunch of female moderators said they couldn't be around anymore.
I can't believe that William Albrecht's you guys can't figure out that he's got a lisp and you're trying to figure out what's going on.
This is probably Albrecht's Grindr profile. And how do they all know how well it works?
I went on there to do some research. I was doing Grindr's research, okay, and I was just researching for the last 3 weeks on Grindr, just to do research, just to figure out how this site works, just to see how many pictures that you could upload and perhaps download, perhaps. That's all. Just research. And I just want to publicly just pray for everybody and just watch me pray online. Just pray with me for the next 20 minutes online.
He was going to be around. He was removed for drama. And one thing people don't realize.
He was removed for drama. You start removing drama. If you implement a policy in these circles of removal for drama, there won't be anybody in the circles. They'd all remove themselves. The whole circle would collapse. There would be nobody in there. All these losers have is drama. I mean, these people are the most ridiculous. And I'm not saying that, oh, you're mad because no. I've dealt with these people like Albrecht since like 2017, dude. That's almost a decade of knowing these goobers. And it's the same goobery. It was the same crap 10 years ago. The first time I messaged William Albrecht, I'll tell you, this was fun. This part's funny. This is like 2017. I said, hey, I've heard you're doing Catholic apologetics. We should try to set up a debate. And he said, yes, I would love to debate you on Christology and filioque, right? So we were talking about this originally a long time ago. He said, could you give me a reading list? Yeah, I said, absolutely, I'd be glad to. So I gave him about 5 different things to read on essence, unity, distinction, and filioque. This is like 2017. That's when he says, oh, give me 6 months. And by the way, I only do in-person debates. Now, he had already been doing a bunch of internet crap. And I'm like, in-person debates? Why do you only do an in-person debates? And he says, oh, I'm actually nationally syndicated Catholic radio host. And I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, nobody cares about radio. He's like, I'm on AM, FM Catholic radio all the time. Like as if that, like bragging, right? Like flexing. He's trying to flex on AM, FM radio. I'm like, yo, are you a boomer? AM, FM radio. Are you playing Motown oldies on it? What are you talking about? AM, FM radio, dude. This is 2017. It's already the internet era. I'm not kidding. This way, he's like, no, you don't understand. I only do in-person debates and only appear on Catholic radio. I'm like, come on a freaking YouTube debate. I don't do YouTube debates. And he was already on YouTube with YouTube debates. I'm like, yes, you do. What are you talking about? No, I only do in person. I'm a higher tier. He's like, I'm a higher tier than that. Like, higher tier, dude. He had 2,000 subscribers at the time. You're not high tier. What are you talking about? So then he's like, well, let's just plan to do it in person. Probably wanted to touch butts or something. It's like, I'm not meeting up with you in person. You give me the creeps, dude. By the way, I'm all about people going to the gym. I like going to the gym. When we're in Florida, we try to go on the regular. But I will say this about the sphere of the workout obsessed dudes. Guess what? There's a lot of gay shit in that workout stuff. Like the dudes that are all in. I'm not saying everybody that's into bodybuilding. I'm not saying, but guess what? A lot of bodybuilding stuff, it's a lot of gay stuff. And I didn't know this until fairly recently. I'm being serious. I don't know. I'm not into gay codes and I don't know gay culture and all, but apparently the whole bodybuilding, let me put up all the images on Instagram of how buff I am. Now, I'm not dissing Kotel. I don't think Kotel's gay. Big fan of Kotel. Always been very cool in person. He's married. Got a beautiful German wife. But the bodybuilding sphere, that's a potential. And it's not a proof, but it's a potential. That's going to set you gaydar off. Okay. Okay. So because everything's getting so freaking Skittles, I'm forced to now have gaydar. I never even had gaydar. Didn't even think about it. Well, apparently you got to have it now because this is, everybody's trying to make you into a butt toucher. I'm not touching nobody's butts. Stay away. So see, I didn't know this. People are saying, turns out bodybuilding actually started in the gay community. Now, I'm assuming that's true. I don't know the history of this genre. But I mean, I'll tell you this, I've never had posters. First of all, not against my icon wall. Who has a freaking icon wall next to freaking buff dudes? That's just freaking weird, dude. But who even has posters of buff dudes? Who's not, I mean, if you're like a 15-year-old kid and you're like, I like these guys, this is superheroes, and you got a He-Man poster. Okay, my friend that he drew comic books, okay, when we were teenagers. Okay, he's got X-Men posters. I get it, right? Buff dudes, you want to learn how to draw. If you're an adult and you got giant posters of buff dudes, first of all, are you a teenager or are you an adult? It's just freaking weird. Anyway, that's all to say about this. That's all my riffing and jokes on it. If you want to see what the whole drama is, you can watch Cleve's stream right here. Stream to Antiquity right there. And I did want to mention, by the way, throughout the COOF, we did many, many, many podcasts, many, many, many streams, many, many 4th hours of Lord Voldemort. And what did I harp on over and over and over and over and over during the COOF? PSYOP, 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 PSYOP. I got tired of talking about it. I got tired of citing Klaus's books. I got sick of it. And what do we have now? Well, let's see what this letter from the WEF, what it says. There have been significant developments in the past 5 to 7 years on social, environmental, and tech fronts that could help realize the carbon initiatives for shaping the future. This could lead towards smart cities, sustainable cities. We talked about all that. Specifically, in this context, the COOF was a test of social responsibility. What did I tell you throughout the whole COOF? This is a gigantic PSYOP test, R&D, prepping you, studying you. How do they react to the idea of bio threats, biometric threats? And remember, out of that, they said the future is biometric terror, by which they mean people not complying can potentially be labeled biometric terror threats. You see, you didn't participate in the mandated things. You are now a health environmental threat. A huge number of unimaginable restrictions for public health were adopted by billions of people across the world. They admit it was unimaginable. There were numerous examples of globally maintaining social distancing, masks, stabbies, acceptance of contact tracing, which demonstrated the core of social responsibility. You have a duty to the collective. What collective? The world. Says who? Says Klaus, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the United Nations. In fact, do you remember that during the COOF, the CDC said we are now subservient to the Rockefeller Foundation and the United Nations? Yes. Look that up. I couldn't believe it when they said it. And I still have normies like Jimmy Akin, Trent Horn, that say that none of this was a plan. None of it was a PSYOP. None of it was a globalist elite scheme, even when they admit it. Has Trent Horn admitted he was wrong about anything? No. In fact, Trent Horn has never admitted that he's been wrong about anything in the last 5 years. Amazing. Trent pushed stabbies. Trent pushed all of your social responsibility duties. And was he wrong about any of it? No, he still triples down. Even though the term triad is a term used in his own liturgy, he still says that it's a anti-Trinitarian term. This is your pop apologist that you listen to? That alone should end his career. To be so fundamentally silly, to make such a basic mistake about a Trinitarian term in his liturgy, and he still triples down and says it's an anti-Trinitarian term. That should end his career. And it doesn't. In fact, he gets bigger numbers. You're just jealous. Okay, you can think that. You think I'm just jealous? Yes. So even though I'm correct about what I said about Candace, about what I said about Trent Horn, about what I said about Klaus and the WAF, it's all just jealousy. Sure. Yes, Trent is a male feminist. Explicitly. You think I'm making jokes. He debated Tim Gordon as a male feminist. That was his position. And you normies, all of you Catholic goobers, all of you big numbers, you would rather listen to that than this. Why? Because you're mean. Let's say I'm mean. Let's be adults. Okay, fine. I'm mean. Am I wrong? Yeah, because the keys. Because of the keys. You know, there's like a 14th century Orthodox saint. I forget which saint it is. But he made the joke. Somebody made a meme out of it. It's a great meme. There's an Orthodox saint from like the 14th century. And he said, anytime you debate the Roman Catholics, the papists, they jingle the keys in your face. They've been doing this since the 1400s, dude. Somebody needs to dig that meme up. I think Sneck shared that years ago. Sneck always had these like classic memes. Sneck was the king of like awesome memes. Abu Aquinas meme, that was a Sneck meme. All right. So you see, I'm correct. I was correct about this. The more correct I am, the less people want to listen. That's what's getting weird. It's like you would think I'm vindicated. You think the audience is getting bigger. I mean, it is, but you would think, oh, maybe Candace doesn't know what she's talking about. Maybe the guy who was saying all the stuff that Candace just learned, not the crazy shit, but the actual real stuff that Candace just learned 2 years ago, the guy that like Jay and Lord Voldemort, they were saying it 15, 20 years ago. No, we don't listen to them. We're going to listen to Lil Oprah. That's my girl, Lil Oprah. Y'all listen to Lil Oprah? My own family members listen to Lil Oprah, but they won't listen to me. Well, we saw you in your poopy pants when you were a kid, so why would we listen to you? Surely Lil Oprah and her architectural digest that she reads, she read architectural digest. She's smart. She know what up. She read Green Beret Weekly. What was the other one? She know how to compartmentalize.
If you can't compartmentalize.
See, you so dumb. You think it matters how you say words. You just dumb, white boy. You don't know. You don't know. What matters is who got that diva motion. Who got that sass? And it ain't you, white boy.
Then I don't see how you're going to be able to, we don't like them. We don't agree with the industries they went into. All of that can be true, but you have to be able to compartmentalize that.
Y'all can't compartmentalize. Problem is this audience is too, they think they smart, but they can't compartmentalize. Midnight Light says for $2, show Gorman Massacre of Andor Star Wars clips. Oh, you mean for like what's happening in Minneapolis? Well, if I play anything like that, it'll ding the algorithm, but people can look up the Star Wars show Andor Season 2 Gorman Massacre, which they're saying is probably mimics or similar to these events. $5, Hark al-Ada. What is your opinion on Asmongold? I'll be honest with you, I've only seen like a few handful of clips of him over the years, so I don't really follow or know what his takes are. What would you do a live stream with him? Of course. I mean, you think I would pass up a live stream with like one of the top YouTubers? Hell no. Of course I would. I mean, I don't even know if he knows who I am. So he may not want to do a live stream with me, but I'll do it. Of course I would. CYYY, $50. Quantum politics. We live relativistically towards each other. There's neither equally nor equitably. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I think maybe more than, I think the way you're using quantum there for quantum politics is postmodern, right? It really is postmodern. I mean, and I know that's like, Jordan Peterson overused that kind of, it's postmodern. It's all postmodern. It's like, heck, it's postmodern. But it really is, because postmodern philosophy is basically saying there's not objective truth, there's not objective reality. Everyone is crafting their truth and their reality, their story. All it is competing stories. And so postmodernism kind of falls into Nietzscheanism or will to power, or, just basically whoever has the numbers. Oh, interesting. Sounds like Roman Catholicism, doesn't it? Yeah, Roman Catholicism is true because of the numbers. Candace is right because she's got the numbers and you're just jealous. Well, that's all postmodernism. That's all will to power. That just tells me that it's not about what's true. It's not about who actually has a track record of being correct. It's none of that. It's just will to power. But actually, if you think about it, that is papism. The papacy is, and that's what Candace is, she's a papist. Papism is worship of authority, worship of geopolitical power and numbers. The walls is over here cracking. It's so cold, the walls are cracking. From the windows to the walls. Aha, $5.40, $5. Is the U.S. taxpayer considered a creditor in the Rothschild system, or is it just the banks? Good question. Let's see. By the way, my my Streamlabs is not showing Streamlabs super chats because when I opened up my Streamlabs to do the stream, the internet cut out because of the storm. So if you sent a Streamlabs super chat, I can't. Oh, I know what I can do. I can log into Streamlabs and read it that way. So let's see if we can look at the Streamlabs super chats. Okay, yeah, so we got quite a few of these. Wow, we got quite a few to read over here. Silver Enjoyer, $3. Jay, when I astral project to the Roman Empire, they don't accept my Bitcoin. Hashtag denaries forever. Well, I guess that is one argument as a Bitcoiner that I can't refute. If you astral project and you're trying to engage in economic activities, probably Bitcoin ain't going to work. Funko Monk, $5. Somebody needs to tell Sweet Candace to get a dictionary and look up them Sumerian TPUSA Jesuit wormholes that Charlie came through. Exactly. So that's what we've been saying for a long time. Anonymous, why is Tucker Anglican? From what he grew up, I guess. Explain this to a foreigner. Is it because of aristocracy? Do you have aristocratic families of English descent in the U.S.? Yes, that does exist. Do they have a significant influence in U.S. politics? Probably not that much, but there is a little bit of that, yeah. I think a lot of the Eastern Seaboard elite kind of trace their lineage that way. And a lot of the early OSS and CIA people were actually recruited out of the Episcopal Church. And that's because a lot of the founding fathers and those sort of elite families on the Eastern Seaboard were Episcopal. They were Anglican. So there is a pedigree. But I mean, it doesn't mean that like the CIA is run by Episcopals. And the CIA has recruited a bunch of Jesuits. In fact, that reminds me. There's so many nuggets in this book. As you guys know, we're doing the Council on Foreign Relations author Burton Hirsch, American Elite and the Origins of the CIA, the Old Boys. And I'm getting pretty close to halfway. It's not an easy read. There's a lot of details. It's a lot of history and information, so it's a lot to take in. But I did come to this, which I thought was pretty wild. Pius XII. And we already kind of knew this. We've talked about this a lot, but it's yet another source vindicating this point, which is on page 167. Speaking of James Jesus Angleton, the Cold War spy master, I thought there might be something on YouTube about, I mean, there's a lot of Angleton videos, but there's nothing about this. But he did cultivate very close relationship with Pius XII. Angleton was instrumental in taking the edge off of the OSS's late war humiliations. During his COI days, Bill Donovan, cultivated a close relationship with Pius XII. He capitalized on this by plugging into the political roundups of the anti-Comintern and the anti-Nazi operations known as Pro Deo, the so-called Black Reports. The way was then opened, accordingly, when OSS chief in Rome, Vincent Scamperini, picked up extremely productive agents who purported to market day-by-day documents out of the diplomatic traffic at the Vatican. Angleton wasn't convinced. As X2 in Rome, this is high-level OSS placement, he did not like the feel of the thing when the cutout to the Vatican could not be located in the registry of the SIS. Now that's a little bit convoluted, but basically a couple pages later it fills it out and it says, in 1945, James Jesus Angleton would concede that he was coordinating many matters with the Vatican's sophisticated intelligence apparatus. Now, Angleton is the spy master, Cold Warrior, who, as you guys probably know, if you remember in the JFK files, we covered this, organized and coordinated many of the backdoor relationships with the Middle East and certain countries in the Middle East. You know what I'm referring to. We made a video on this, right? You know, I'm not talking about the Muslims. I'm talking about the other country in the Middle East who had a agenda, vendetta against JFK. And that does not make JFK some ideal hero. Well, who was forging this alliance with the papacy even before William Colby, even before John Paul II and all that? By 1945, Angleton coordinated many matters with the Vatican's sophisticated intelligence apparatus. Bill Donovan reopened this exchange by delegating Henry Hyde to escort the Reverend Robert Lieber, a Bavarian Jesuit who served as a confidential secret informant, diplomat, and apologist for the Pope. So he worked together with the Jesuit Lieber, with Donovan and Angleton in Angleton's CIA Vatican intelligence coordination. This was when Angleton was X2. And X2 is, it's not the X-Men, but it is the high-level OSS spy in Rome. Was I muted through all that? What are you talking about? Oh, you mean muting when I sneezed? Can we get a document cam on that? Let me show you. I love getting fancy. But the old document cam went out. It was a little cheap one. But we got fancy document cams now. Here you go. So, another source. They were recruiting and working with Vatican intelligence and the Jesuits in the 1940s. Now, every time I talk about this, I get the low IQ, Roman Catholics who respond by saying, based, dude, based, based. Here's the thing. The reason that this is not based, and again, I'm against communism. I'm not saying it's bad. They're fighting communists, so it's bad because communists are good. This is how low IQ, this is what people think I'm saying. When you make this alliance with the Vatican and the CIA, what happens is you have a new master now. Now you're answerable to the CIA and what it wants and what it pushes. And this is before Vatican II. Now, what happens 10 years after, 20 years after this alliance in the 1940s between Donovan, Angleton, William Colby, and Pius XII and the Vatican? Oh, Vatican II happens. Interesting. And what does David Wim Hof's 700-page book right here say? Oh, well, the CIA influenced the Vatican to go along with the Americanism that John Courtney Murray, also recruited by the CIA, was promoting. What does that mean, Americanism? It means ecumenism, religious liberty, religious freedom. All of the things that Vatican II promotes in Nostra Aetate, Lumen Gentium, Dignitatis Humanae, etc., all of these Vatican II documents that deal with the liberalization, the Protestantization, it's not just theology nerds. It's geopolitical power and influence. In fact, Look magazine, the famous Jewish magazine, and I learned this as a trad cat. Look magazine wrote articles back in I want to say the 60s, bragging that they had convinced the authors of Nostra Aetate to make the statements it did about the Jews. Now, am I supposed to believe that that's the Holy Spirit guiding all that process? If I'm a Roman Catholic, that's what I have to believe. But remember, who was it that drafted Nostra Aetate? Gregory Baum, the Jewish Catholic priest, one of the key writers of the early drafts of Nostra Aetate. He was supposedly persecuted by people and then left the priesthood, came out as openly gay after Nostra Aetate. But don't worry, just follow the Pope. Just follow the Pope. By the way, I wanted to comment just briefly on a couple of funny things. So when I made this post, it's just so people never understand what you mean or what you're trying to get at. And actually, sometimes for tweets, that's actually a good thing, because then people go crazy commenting and sharing, thinking that you said one thing when that's not what you meant. I said, it didn't go super viral, but it got almost 3,000 likes, which is pretty good. You were all witnessing in lifetime the failure of libertarianism in action, as I have critiqued for the last 15 years. Now, let's look at this guy who is some sort of congressperson or veteran or something. I don't know who he is. Michael White says, over the past 15 years, 8 Congresses have convened. The Senate, blah, blah, blah. Only one was a libertarian, Justin Amash, who switched to libertarianism in 2020 to the party. No libertarian ever served in the Senate. So the argument is that 0.01% of legislative apparatus has nothing to do with these actual plans, and it's actually Zio bankers. I said, you totally missed my point, dude. He actually thought that my point in this post was that libertarians are the ones that are getting elected and passing legislation and ruining the country. That's not the point of this post. And I'm not trying to be mean to this guy, but it's like, come on, dude. Obviously, I'm not saying libertarian politicians caused this. I am talking about the philosophy of libertarian ideas, which is leftism in the sense of open borders. The number one pushers all the way back to, remember 10 years ago when Stefan Molyneux, before he was more based than he was, all he would talk about was libertarian open borders because the state is stealing when they have borders. It's a lie. It's just, remember what would they say? Lines drawn on a map. Lines drawn on a map. Libertarians were the ones pushing the open borders for the last 30 plus years, saying it's just lines drawn on a map. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, I'm not saying libertarian politicians, dude. Come on. And ironically, it was the Democrats 20 plus years ago who were correct on the border issue. Everybody has seen it a million times. It was Bill Clinton. We got to deport these people. We got to close the borders. We got to protect the borders. I want to say in my presidency, we will close the borders and deport. Obama deported tons of people because it was a Democrat position. I'm not a Democrat. I go with what's the correct position. Thank you. Cato Institute, Libertarian Institute, open borders. And so these goobers think that I'm talking about what they think is running. Well, just the politicians are running shit. And how about you talk about the Zionists? None of these were libertarian. Come on, dude. This is why we don't get anything done, is that people just have no idea what other people are even talking about. People are operating on two totally different levels of what they're talking about. And the other people have no clue. JB Peltier says, Friday, Jay, you don't get it. You just need to compartmentalize. Exactly. I am talking about neoconservative push for neoliberal libertarian economic theory. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Libertarian Party and the minimal effect that any of those goofballs have had on anything. I said the same thing about Bustamante. I was like, Bustamante, at one point in that debate that we analyzed, I said, he sounds like a libertarian. Bustamante is not a libertarian. He's a sadist. Man, it's like, do you remember the debate with the last two libertarians that we debated? No, excuse me. Derek Mythvision wasn't libertarian. I'm thinking of Austin Peterson. Probably the stupidest person next to T-Dump or not so erudite. Do you remember this train wreck of a debate? It went from bad to worse. And this guy was like the most normie pilled, just like saying, I was actually shocked in the middle of this debate as the conversation progressed, how normie this guy actually was. And it got so bad that the guy muted me. I don't mean Jim Bob, because I was on Jim Bob's stream. I'm saying Austin Peterson muted me so that he didn't have to hear anything I was saying in a debate with him. It was what I'm like, I've never had this is a first. This guy was the worst debate. He's in the top 5 worst debates. And if you didn't watch this one, you should watch it, because if you want to see the absolute rank idiocy of the average libertarian, this is it. This is it. This was something else. So, speaking of libertarians, David Knight was sounding off. And I'll be honest with you, I've never listened to David Knight. I'm not mad at David Knight. There's no InfoWars drama. I was never really doing anything, I don't think. I mean, I might have first hosted when David Knight was leaving, somewhere around there. But I'm going to be honest with you. Whenever David Knight took over, I tuned out, because David Knight is boring. He is so boring. I'm sure he's a nice man. Maybe he means well. I don't know. Never talked to him. But he started going off on ICE. And I'm like, you're a boomer-aged man, and you have a 17-year-old's philosophy of liberty. What boomer still believes in 17-year-old libertarian philosophy? And so I called him out on that, and he got mad and said, "Okay, little boy, grow up." Because I said, "Okay, boomer." And I said, "How about you come and actually debate me on your ridiculous libertarian philosophy?" And then I hit him with what I always called him David NyQuil, because that boomer put my ass to sleep when he started talking. Talk about boring ass show, dude. So this is why things don't change. The intellectuals and the smart people that we deal with, even the smart people are dummies. Even the smart alternative media who can figure out half of what's going on are still dummies. You cannot have a society that doesn't have the use of force.
NAP, dude. NAP, dude. If we just convince everybody of the NAP, then we'll have a free, voluntary society.
Yeah. Really? Is that realistic? We're going to convince the world of the NAP and have a voluntary society. Is that realistic? I'm not a boomer. I'm a straight old millennial, dog. David Desi for 18. Is that Israeli currency? What is that? I don't know what that is. I hope you answer me because nobody else has answered me. I'm stuck. Okay, well, I'm not to your question yet. Let's see. David Essie says for 179, whatever that currency is. Why Eusebius didn't say in the name of Father, Son, and Spirit? In the Bible, we don't see the apostle baptized in Trinity. Like if Jesus said to do it one way, why do we see it other ways? Yeah, well, this has been brought up a lot of times by modalist Pentecostals. They think that when the book of Acts says in the name of Christ or in the name of Jesus, they think that that's a formula. It's not a formula. It's just stating in summation what the baptism is. So the baptism is Trinitarian, but it's just in the book of Acts encapsulating that by saying in the name of Jesus. It's not literally, the book of Acts is not giving you a formula. Plus, there's many things that happen in the book of Acts that are only for that time because it's a transition period. For example, at one point, Paul takes Timothy and circumcises him so that they can go to the temple. But he only did that because that was still in the transition period when Christians and newly converted Jews were still worshiping at the temple, right? So after the temple's destroyed, there's not really any purpose or use in worshiping at the temple, right? Because there's no temple. Pentecost, right? Pentecost is a one-time event in redemptive history in Acts 2 that fulfills the book of Joel. Joel is predicting what's happening at Pentecost in Acts 2. Joel is not predicting a end of the world last days. The last days is what happens in Acts 2. Jesus brings the last days at his first advent. So I'm not knocking your question, but it is a question that's usually brought by oneness Pentecostals or modalists. But the question is rests on those two assumptions: that number one, the book of Acts is giving a specific ritual formula. It's not. And that everything in the book of Acts is normative for everything in the rest of the history of the church. It's not. Yeah, that's fine. You can ask those questions, but that's typically the answer that we give. I just was laughing because I didn't recognize the currency. It looks Hebrew, but it's like some of the Asian currencies. If somebody super chats from Asia, it also kind of looks like that. All right, let's see. Oh, wait, we got more over here. It says, Bob Dog, $10. Do you think the British street artist Banksy is a psyop? It could be. I don't know. I mean, with a lot of those kind of mainline leftist performance art, what do you call it? Like art activism. Usually that's not organic. I mean, it can be, but it's a good question. But I haven't really. I mean, I've seen Banksy's art over the years, and sometimes it's saying good stuff. But I mean, nowadays I think everybody's pretty much skeptical of everything in terms of authenticity. Zet, $5. You aren't broadly popular on the right because you have a message that takes brain power to compartmentalize. Well, I'm starting to realize that because, as goofy and kind of as silly as Candace is, like, I think like that's what it actually takes, I guess, to be popular. Right. I think one time Henry Kissinger said something like being high IQ can actually be a detriment. So Super Saiyan Jin J, $10. They've been psychologically decapitated through constant mind grape. It makes me feel sad for people. We need an orthodox empire. Well, I don't think any political solution is going to come in our lifetime. And there are no really political solutions anyway. But I mean, it would certainly be nice if we had Christian principles governing things, but we don't. Groove Monster, $10. Thank you for everything. Do you think that what Trump is doing in the Western Hemisphere has continuity with Nelson Rockefeller's hemispheric economic plan? The Rockefeller Report on the Americas came to mind immediately when this started. There probably is some overlap with older geopolitical strategies of those kind of grandparent boomer people. And Trump is still a boomer, so boomers are still in power, I'm saying. So probably there is overlap with that Kissinger era. Because I mean, Kissinger just died. So, we're still operating on those Kissinger Rockefeller era programs. So probably. Groove Monster, $10. I know Sir Halford Mackinder viewed the Americas and the Western Hemisphere as its own world island, apart from the world island that contains the heartland. Yeah, interesting. I didn't recall that. I'm not doubting you, but that's a good point. I didn't even know off the top of my head what Mackinder would have said about Latin South America, but I think for American geostrategic interests, they probably just see it as purely a pragmatic necessity. But also, I think we did a show on this a few weeks ago, like probably also with Trump, there is this there might be a desire for resources or the attaining of resources like oil and such because of the terrible state of the American economy. I mean, if we don't get rid of the Federal Reserve, the economy will never be fixed. And it doesn't look like you can ever even pay the debt. So I think some people have opined that perhaps the appropriating of other countries' resources is due to the devastating effects of quantitative easing and fiat money printing. And inflation. Cobra, $5. The Ripper crew was also connected. They were a satanic murder cult. The leader, I think, worked with Gacy. I did a show covering the Ripper crew. So I don't recall if I connected it to Gacy, but I did know that they were involved in Satanism. And I don't remember which podcast discusses the Ripper crew, but we did in the serial killer installments, we do talk about the Ripper crew. But thank you for reminding me of that. Let's see who's next. Matt Scroggins, $5. Roman Catholics are going to be happy that they can finally be out of the closet and unanimously for the first time become fake and gay. Okay. Elephants Never Ending, $5. Libertarians claim that they're against communism, but their policies are literally playing into the hands of Fabian communists. Well, actually, libertarianism and communism have a lot of commonalities, and they're two dialectical sides of the same problem. Even H.G. Wells admitted that as a communist. He said, libertarians are not our enemies. They will actually build the world that we will take over. And he even says, I want to say it's either Open Conspiracy or New World Order where he says that. What's a Federal Reserve? Have you looked into the 764? Yeah, I've interviewed BX on that. So, Steve, Jesus, $20. Jay, do you think the emphasis on studying science and technology
and not the classics is part of a intentional psyop? Partly yes, but also it's the natural progression of a society going into information age. So I think just for monetary purposes, most people don't think that there's any point in studying the arts because you're not going to make money from it. So there's a monetary incentive, but also there is, I think, an engineered dumbing down of the populace to not learn, say, the basic informal fallacies. Because I mean, most grad students, college degree people that I've met, even in academic fields, they don't know the fallacies. You think that would be like college 101. Gravios $10 wasn't a Christian holiday back then to forgive debts. Well, that's even a Jewish holiday. Even in the Torah, you have the Jubilees where you forgive debts. And then I think at various points in Christian history, various Christian nations have appropriated that and done things like the forgiving of debts. So I think you're correct. So it's very easy. We become a Christian nation and then we forgive all the debts. We wipe out all the debts. Or we could just say that the Federal Reserve was passed through fraud and it is a giant fraudulent system. And so we cross it out as criminal racketeering. And you don't owe, we just cancel it out because we don't owe it to a bunch of criminals. How's that? Classified as racketeering. You know, it's like, do I owe Tony Soprano all of, the protection money? Well, it's like Tony Soprano comes and says, you owe me for the past 100 years of the protection money you haven't paid. You're a criminal. I don't owe you. You could get lost. I wanted to say there's one other thing I was looking to cover. What was it? Let me look at my notes, make sure I got to everything today. Yeah, we covered all that. I think we hit everything that I wanted to cover today. I did a discussion with Josie from Timcast on Christian Zionism. If you didn't know about that, you can go check that out. You guys can check out my refutation of Islam with Kai. Well, it's a series on the geopolitics of Islam. So if you didn't watch that, this was the last podcast that we did. Remember, tomorrow we're doing a movie stream with Jim Bob. We'll be covering David Fincher's The Killer and Under the Silver Lake, the cult classic conspiracy film that has quite a bit to decode. We covered that when it came out about 6 years ago with Tristan, and we're going to revisit it with Jim Bob. Gravios, $20. I guess that works. Become a proper Christian nation first, too, though, right? Look, I think we just need to focus on converting people to orthodoxy, and politics is downstream from all that. So, a lot of people, they're zealots. They think they're going to fix the world through politics first, and they try to make Jesus into some political poster boy, and it's the other way around, dude. How are you a boomer but to have this hair? I'm not a boomer. Just got fancy genetics. The only boomer thing I can think of is that we like Florida, but there's nothing else boomer in this vicinity, dude. Bitcoin, boomers don't get Bitcoin. My job is internet. Boomers don't live stream as a job on internet. I play video games, do game streams. That boomers don't do that. There's like one boomer in the world that does that. I write books on movies. Boomers don't do that. Maybe some boomers do. But when is your long hair coming back? It's probably not going to come back. I feel like it just didn't really look right. I don't know. I feel like I look a little bit better with short hair. So, I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed growing it out, but Right Wing Nuck, $7. I've been reading Dugin's Fourth Political Theory. How does Dugan ground noetically while fostering relationships with Hinkle and Hawes? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I don't get from the Dugan sphere and things I disagree with, but I think he thinks that anything, it's worth aligning with anything that's against Western liberalism. Plump Boomer or Plump Booty? Michael Savage does. Well, he's a radio host, though. So, I mean, technically, and I think he's retired from radio now, but I mean, he was like, that's peak Boomer as being a radio host, dude. So he's not actually primarily an internet dude. Guys, remember to head on over to chalk.com, CHOQ.com, the best in supplementation on the internet, and pray for our country. It's very important that we pray for our country, because if we don't have borders and walls, we have no USA at all. No borders, no walls, no USA at all. Coping 24/7, $15. Jay, do you think libertarians are uniquely vulnerable to the ideological aims of Islamic State? Yes. In fact, that's something I've said in many podcasts over the years. So I totally agree. Medicare is looking into orthodoxy. Oh, cool. I actually remember super chatting Medicare over the years, saying, hey, check out orthodoxy, look into orthodoxy, you might check it out. So I've actually prayed for Medicare to look into orthodoxy. That's good. That's a good news. He gave a shout out on his last stream. Well, hey, thanks, man. I've watched Medicare streams over the last several, all the way back to Bloodsport days. I don't think I've ever talked to him on a stream, but I have sent him some super chats. But remember that the show sponsor is chalk.com, CHOQ.com, best in supplementation on the internet. You can get all of your supplement needs through chalk.com using the promo code J60Life. That's JAY60LIFE, J60Life. And that includes the performance stack. That includes anything over here in terms of male vitality. This is workout adjacent. These aren't PP pills, although the Tonkat Elite will boost testosterone. You don't have to buy that performance stack, but you do get 60% off. But you can also buy any of these individually. So you can, if you're a lady, you can look into Shilajit, Ashwagandha, Irish Moss. That has to do with female hormone vitality. All of that systems, all them pipes working. And you can also architecturalize and compartmentalize. Wait, how does she say it? I can't even think of how she said it wrong. How does she say it? Let's see. Compartmentalize. If you need to compartmentalize, head on over to chalk.com and use the promo code J60Life. And they can architecturalize all of your body needs. Otherwise, you can get the books in the shop at jasonelsis.com. All my great Hollywood trilogy there. Jamie's books. By the way, some people are still waiting on some of the books. I should mention why that is. It's actually Jeffrey Bezos's fault. So this is a Bezos thing. Turns out Jamie's books are delayed for 2 weeks. So we expect them, I think it would have been 1 week and Jamie's books would have come, but then the snowstorm happened and I think it delayed it more. So Jamie's book, Operation Culture Creation 2 and Hollywood Mind Control are delayed because they come from Bezos. So Jamie published those through the whatever Bezos Amazon publishing thing is. So usually it takes 2 weeks when Jamie orders her books to come, but this has been a disaster and it's been a month. So I have not forgotten the 30 orders or so that have Jamie's books on there. But if you haven't gotten your order, this is why. It is not because we're lazy and we're trying to steal your book money or anything like that. It's because of the storm and because of Amazon delay to print the books. So you will get it, I promise. I know that many people have waited for a really long time. I apologize. If it was up to me, I would get you your books right away. Let's see, who else? All right, I think that's everybody. Appreciate everybody tuning in. All the super chats. We had a large audience tonight. Thank you guys so much. Let me see if I can dump y'all into somebody else because I need to get into the habit of doing this. I forget how to do it sometimes. We got up to 1,700 tonight, I think. Let's see. We can go over here into redirect. Let's see who is anybody pumping it out tonight? Let's see who's up. I don't see any of our people. BLA, when's BLA doing his show? Oh, that's not till tomorrow. So I guess I'm the only person streaming tonight. Let's see. Jamie's got a show coming up. Why doesn't let me pick those? All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Is Cleve streaming? No, he already streamed earlier. Rob Noer. Cleve's over. Let's see. Is Rob streaming on Crucible? Where is he at? What the heck? Why is this not working? This keeps freezing. I don't see Crucible. All right. Well, I'll dump y'all into somebody else next time. Thank you all for showing up. Great crowd tonight. Really glad to have. I think we got up to 1,700 tonight. Otherwise, hit like and share. Everybody have a good night.